Chapter 2793. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The baby monkey did not know how to speak, so it did not raise its guard when it saw Su Zimo and the others. It only babbled as if it was asking something. A faint red light flashed through the baby monkey's black eyes occasionally. When he noticed that red light, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. The monkey's eyes had such a characteristic. The others from Sword World were also surprised when they saw the baby monkey. Wang Dong said, "It looks like this baby monkey is the descendant of a sinful spirit and belongs to the Sanguine Ape clan. The red light in its eyes is a unique characteristic of the Sanguine Ape clan." Gong Sun Yu said, "The Sanguine Ape clan is ranked quite high among all living beings, especially after they reach adulthood and awaken the bloodline talent of the Sanguine Ape clan. When they enter a berserk state, their combat strength will increase tremendously. They can even fight against the top races of all living beings." It was only now that Su Zimo knew that the monkey belonged to the Sanguine Ape clan of the upper world. Sword Immortal Tai Lai said, "I heard that the Sanguine Ape clan dominated the 3,000 worlds in a previous epoch. They were invincible." "There is indeed such a thing." Monk Ju Jian nodded slightly. "That epoch was called the Era of Battle. Back then, the Sanguine Ape clan gave birth to a peerless expert who fought in the 3,000 worlds. He was invincible and was eventually crowned as the Emperor of Battle." A figure holding a long staff and looking down on the world appeared in Su Zimo's mind. Back then, when Wu Dao's original body went through the tribulation, the 10th tribulation had formed an old ape with unparalleled combat strength. Now that he thought about it, it should be the Emperor of Battle. Monk Ju Jian sighed. This Emperor of Battle spent his entire life fighting against the heavens, the earth, and even the living beings of all living beings until he died in battle. It's sad. Su Zimo frowned and could not help but ask, "This expert of the Sanguine Ape clan has already become a great emperor. Who can kill him?" "I'm not sure." Monk Ju Jian shook his head. "This Emperor of Battle lost his mind and chose to ally himself with demons and become enemies with all living beings. The Heavenly Tao probably did not tolerate this. It's precisely because he allied himself with the evil demon that the Blood Ape clan was implicated and almost went extinct. In the Era of Battle, the Blood Ape realm was one of the most powerful great realms. Now, countless epochs have passed, and the Blood Ape realm still hasn't recovered. It can only be considered a higher realm now." Wang Dong said, "The Blood Ape race in the evil demon battlefield is the descendant of the Blood Ape sin spirit from the war epoch. They bear the great sin of their ancestor. The Blood Ape realm can be considered lucky." Gong Sun Yu said, "Since ancient times, who knows how many realms and races have been completely annihilated in that calamity." Qin Zhong said, "Since ancient times, evil has never triumphed over righteousness. So what if you're the Emperor of Dozhan? You're on the side of evil. In the end, you're no match for the will and power of all living beings. Since he is the descendant of a sinful spirit, kill him." Shen Yu drew his sword and prepared to kill the young monkey. "Wait." Su Zimo suddenly spoke. "Peak Master Su, what's wrong?" Shen Yu turned around and asked. Everyone else looked at Su Zimo as well. Su Zimo said, "This young monkey is only a few months old. Even if we kill him, there won't be any battle merits. Let him live." Actually, a thought flashed through his mind. Could this young monkey be related to Monkey by blood? Although the possibility was low, Su Zimo could not let this young monkey die here as long as there was a 1 in 10,000 chance. Su Zimo did not care about evil demons or sinful spirits. He only knew that Monkey was the first brother he made in Tianhuang mainland. When he was still weak and not strong enough, Monkey risked his life to save him from the jaws of a wolf and the sword of a Foundation establishment cultivator. If this young monkey was Monkey's child, he would not allow anyone to harm him. Amitabha, Monk Ju Jian chanted a Buddhist proclamation softly. "Peak Master Su is benevolent." However, Shen Yu was indifferent. Shen Yu said, "This monkey isn't a threat now. However, one day he'll grow up and become a cruel, sinful spirit. Let's kill him while he's still young and remove a potential threat lest the living beings of the other 3,000 worlds die in his hands." "Brother Shin, forget it." Wang Dong persuaded from the side, "It's just a young monkey." Actually, Lin Xuanzhen, Wang Dong and the others did not intend to make a move. Deep in their hearts, they were still conflicted about dealing with a young monkey that was only a few months old. This young monkey was like a newborn baby, like a piece of white paper. It didn't know right and wrong, and it didn't have any hatred. It didn't have the slightest bit of defense against strangers like them. Killing a young monkey like that was akin to killing a defenseless child. Lin Xuanzhen, Wang Dong and the others were perfected immortals and naturally disdained such a matter. When Xin Yu heard Wang Dong's persuasion, he did not insist and shrugged. "Whatever. Even if we don't kill it, how long can a young monkey like that live in the fiend battlefield?" With that, Xin Yu walked out of the cave. Not long after, a black shadow suddenly rushed out from the darkness of the fork and pounced toward Xin Yu with a low roar. Shen Yu reacted extremely quickly and immediately retreated to the side. He took out his immortal sword and stabbed toward the black shadow. In an instant, dozens of sword shadows emerged from the sword and enveloped the black shadow. Puchi! The black shadow groaned and a few streaks of blood burst out from its body. However, the black shadow did not show any signs of retreating. Instead, it became even more violent. Its eyes flashed with red light as it charged toward Xin Yu with no regard for its life. Lin Xuanzhen and the others quickly rushed over and took a closer look. The black shadow was a tall female ape. Its body was covered in blood and dust. In addition to the new wounds that Xin Yu had just left, there were also countless old wounds that had not yet formed scabs. The female ape's thigh injury was the most serious. The flesh around the wound had already rotted, revealing the white bones inside. She was limping as she walked. "Evil beast, you're courting death." Shen Yu's expression was cold. Although this female ape was also at the Dongshu stage, her injuries were too serious. She was no match for Xin Yu at all. Xin Yu attacked again. This attack was extremely stunning. The sword light was dazzling and thousands of sword shadows burst out in an instant. It was impossible to see the true body of the immortal sword at all. Under the illumination of the sword light, the female ape only felt a stabbing pain in her eyes. 2 lines of blood uncontrollably flowed down from her eyes. However, she still tried to open her eyes as wide as possible and rushed forward recklessly. She wanted to protect her child, even if she had to give up her life. Shen Yu's eyes were cold and a trace of disdain flashed across his eyes. He had released all the artistic conception of the illusory sword Dao in this attack. Not to mention that this female ape was seriously injured. Even if she was in her best condition, she would not be able to block this attack. The true body of the immortal sword was hidden under the countless sword shadows and stabbed toward the female ape's forehead. Just as his immortal sword was about to enter the female ape's forehead, a green brilliance suddenly flashed and pierced through the countless illusions and hit the ridge of his immortal sword. Chapter 2794. Xin Yu shuddered. Not only did the green light break his illusory sword Dao, but it also struck the weakest point of his immortal sword. It was extremely powerful. His arm that was holding the sword trembled slightly, and he felt numb. Shen Yu focused his eyes and noticed that this wisp of emerald green brilliance was an emerald green and glistening longsword. The edge of the sword was swift and fierce, and it was even superior to his natal immortal sword. His attack was blocked, and the sword was deflected. The power of the immortal sword had been scattered, and it was no longer a threat to the female ape. However, the female ape's eyes flashed with a bloody light, and she had no intention of stopping. The green longsword did not stop. It separated from Xin Yu's immortal sword and suddenly moved horizontally. It landed on the female ape's body and flicked lightly. The green longsword was not even as thick as the female ape's arm. However, such a simple flick was enough to stop the female ape's momentum. Her huge body was thrown high into the air, and she landed steadily on the ground. Seeing this scene, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. The green longsword broke the illusory sword Dao and collided with Xin Yu's immortal sword, and an unparalleled power burst forth. In the blink of an eye, the green longsword landed on the female ape's body and turned gentle. This change between hardness and softness showed the swordsman's exquisite control of his own power. Who is it? Shin Yu shouted. He took a deep breath and circulated his blood qi. He held his sword in front of his chest and took a step back. He was on high alert. Peak Master Su? Shin Yu turned around and saw Su Zimo standing not far away with the green longsword in his hand. Lin Xuanjun, Wang Dong, and the others were also shocked. They only saw a figure flash before their eyes. They did not expect that the person who attacked was Su Zimo. What's going on? Peak Master Su saw through Brother Shin's illusory sword Dao and forced Brother Shin to retreat with one strike? Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu, and the others looked at each other. They could see the confusion and disbelief in each other's eyes. The biggest possibility was that Shin Yu had not used his full strength, and Peak Leader Su Zhu had used her full strength to attack him when he was unprepared. In fact, Su Zimo had only used 30% of his strength when he attacked earlier because he was afraid of injuring Shin Yu. Peak Master Su Zhu, what is the meaning of this? Shin Yu frowned. His face darkened, and there was a trace of anger in his tone. Just now, Su Zimo had stopped him from killing that monkey. Although he was somewhat dissatisfied in his heart, he did not say anything. After all, a monkey that was only a few months old posed no threat to them. Moreover, it had no battle merits. However, the female ape in front of them was obviously hostile to them. Furthermore, killing this female ape would give them 10 battle achievements. Now that Peak Master Su Zhu was here to stop them, Shin Yu was a little annoyed. Moreover, both sides had just exchanged blows. This was much more serious than a verbal dispute. Wang Tong, Gong Sun Yu, and the others hurried over. Although the crowd did not say anything, their gazes towards Su Zimo carried a trace of doubt. Peak Master Su Zhu. Shin Yu said in a deep voice, although your cultivation realm is not as high as mine, you are a peak master. I, Shin Yu, have never looked down on you. I would like to ask Peak Master Su Zhu. Putting aside the fact that you were protecting that monkey just now, why did you save this beast now? Lin Xuanjun, Wang Tong, and the others all looked toward Su Zimo. They could not understand Su Zimo's actions. When the female ape saw so many top experts running out of the cave, she also calmed down. The red light in her eyes gradually receded, and she did not act rashly. Moreover, from Shin Yu's words, she at least knew that her child was not dead. The female ape looked at Su Zimo's back, and a trace of doubt flashed in her eyes. She did not understand why this true spirit from the outside world would appear to save her and even protect her child. Although she did not know the reason, the female ape could vaguely feel that this man in green did not have any hostility towards her. I have a few questions that I would like to ask her. Su Zimo said. And then? Shin Yu stared at Su Zimo and asked. Su Zimo was silent. Forget it, forget it. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little tense, Wang Tong coughed lightly and stood up to smooth things over. This beast is useful to Peak Master Su. Let her ask first, we will talk later. As he spoke, Wang Tong nudged Shin Yu, indicating that he should calm down first so that he would not offend Su Zhu verbally. Shin Yu walked a few steps and saw that Wang Tong and the others were still there. He could not help but sneer. Peak Master Su Zhu is asking questions, what are you guys still doing there? Wang Tong said, I am here to watch, in case this beast goes berserk and hurts people. Shin Yu curled his lips and said, as a Peak Master Su Zhu could easily beat me back with a casual move. Why does she need Brother Wang's protection? Wang Tong looked at Su Zimo awkwardly. Su Zimo's expression was calm and he was not angry. After all, Shin Yu was the #1 of illusory sword peak. He was somewhat unconvinced that his Dao of illusory sword was broken by Wang Tong. But he was a peak master and could not be bothered to argue with Shin Yu. Lin Xuanjun suddenly said, you guys go out, I will guard here. Wang Tong and the others naturally had no objection to Lin Xuanjun's words. Shin Yu shrugged and turned to leave. Lin Xuanjun took a few steps back, leaving enough space for Su Zimo and the mother ape. At the same time, at this distance, if anything happened, she could make a move in time. At this moment, the baby monkey in the cave heard the commotion outside and also staggered out. After seeing the mother ape, its little face was full of joy and it squeaked. After the mother ape saw the baby monkey, the hostility on her body disappeared in an instant, and her eyes became much gentler. All creatures had maternal instincts. The mother ape went forward and hugged the baby monkey in her arms. After checking that there were no injuries, she heaved a sigh of relief. Of course, the mother ape still looked at Su Zimo with a hint of wariness. Su Zimo came before the mother ape and channeled his true essence, condensing an ancient mirror in his palm with the image of a monkey. He's also from the sanguine ape race. Do you know him? Su Zimo asked. The mother ape looked at the image on the ancient mirror with a confused expression. After a while, she shook her head. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and was relieved. From the looks of it, Monkey should not be in the fiend battlefield. At the same time, he was slightly disappointed that he did not receive any news of Monkey. The mother ape was covered in wounds and licked them carefully, unable to conceal her fatigue. Where's his father? Su Zimo asked. The mother ape paused in her licking and went silent. A moment later, she said, "He died in battle." The so-called death in battle was most likely killed by the living beings of the 10,000 races that descended here. In the demonic battlefield, even a mature true spirit-level sanguine ape would face danger at any time, not to mention a cub. Even so, the mother ape did not abandon her child and was even willing to fight to the death. Was this a sinful spirit? Su Zimo could not sense any difference between the mother ape before him and the living beings of the 3,000 worlds. The only difference was that she had the title of a sinful spirit. Chapter 2795. Perhaps it was because the mother ape was trying her best to protect her child that he felt compassion for her. Or perhaps it was because the sanguine ape race reminded him of monkeys. Or perhaps he had an inexplicable resistance towards the fiend battlefield to begin with. In any case, Su Zimo did not want to hurt them. Su Zimo took out some healing elixirs from his storage bag and placed them in front of the mother ape in front of her puzzled gaze. Su Zimo briefly explained how to consume those elixirs. The mother ape looked at Su Zimo in disbelief. Those foreign living beings were bent on killing them for battle merits. Why would this person be so kind? Su Zimo did not explain either. Suddenly, a few green beams of light shot out from his fingertips and entered the mother ape's body instantly. His actions were extremely fast, and by the time the mother ape reacted, it was already too late. The mother ape was enraged, thinking that Su Zimo had cast some sort of curse on her. The scarlet glint in her eyes shone once more as she bared her fangs at Su Zimo, wanting to hurt him. However, the mother ape's killing intent calmed down before long, and she had a bewildered expression. The green beams of light contained immense life force and did not hurt her at all. After entering her body, they were healing her injuries rapidly. Even the wound on her thigh that was corroded by the curse was starting to grow some tender flesh and blood vessels, gradually recovering. At that moment, the mother ape finally understood. This human cultivator was healing her. The mother ape half knelt on the ground and clasped her hands together, kowtowing to Su Zimo repeatedly with an emotional expression. As though it could sense Su Zimo's goodwill, the young monkey chased after him and squealed. Su Zimo looked at the young monkey's clear, pitch-black eyes. Those eyes were so pure without any bit of hatred. In fact, he did not even know that the moment he was born, he bore the infamy of a sinful spirit and could be killed for battle merits at any moment. Su Zimo could do nothing about their fates. Su Zimo sighed in his heart. After a moment of silence, he turned and left. Su Zimo came to the side of Lin Xuanjun and Kitsune. The three of them walked side by side towards the exit of the cave. Lin Xuanjun didn't say anything about Su Zimo's decision. After a while, Lin Xuanjun suddenly said, "Peak Master Su, it's not suitable for you to come to the demonic battlefield." Su Zimo remained silent. Lin Xuanjun continued, "The purpose of entering the evil demon battlefield is to kill evil demons and sinful spirits. The righteous and evil cannot coexist. Even if you save that crimson ape today, if you meet her again in the future, she will repay your kindness with ingratitude. An evil spirit is an evil spirit. A sinful spirit is a sinful spirit. What do you know about humanity?" "Perhaps." Su Zimo was noncommittal. He only replied indifferently. At this moment, A voice suddenly came from outside the cave. Everyone, do you believe that Peak Master Su Zhu will definitely let that bastard go? It was Xin Yu's voice. Although they were separated by the winding cave, Qinglian's ears were extremely sharp. She could hear Xin Yu's voice clearly. Wang Dong lowered his voice and said, "Let her go. It's just 10 battle merits. It's no big deal. It's fine as long as there's no animosity between fellow disciples." Xin Yu snorted and said, "You all saw it just now. He actually fought with fellow disciples for that bastard. What is this? As a peak master of the sword world, does he see us as fellow disciples?" Wang Dong persuaded, "Brother Xin, you're exaggerating. Peak Master Su is not targeting you. It's just that the situation was critical and he didn't have time to communicate. He could only save that female ape first." Qin Zhong also suddenly said, "Actually, I feel that Peak Master Su Zhu is a burden in our team. She seems a little redundant. Not only can she not be of much help in battle, but we also have to spend most of our energy taking care of her." After a pause, Qin Zhong added, "Of course, it's our duty to protect our fellow disciples. However, because of her and junior sister Baiming, we'll lose a lot of opportunities to earn battle merits." "That's not a big deal." Monk Zhu Jian pondered and said, "It's mainly because I've observed that Peak Master Su Zhu is very scholarly and benevolent. She doesn't seem like someone who would kill decisively, even when dealing with evil spirits. Letting the bastard go today is acceptable. But next time, if Peak Master Su Zhu is merciful and decides to let the tiger go back to the mountain, what should we do?" Hearing this, even Wang Dong fell silent. At this time, Wang Dong seemed to have noticed that Lin Xuanzhen, Su Zimo, and Kitsune were about to come out of the cave. He hurriedly said, "Stop talking." Before long, Su Zimo and the other two arrived outside the cave. Su Zimo looked at Wang Dong, Xin Yu, and the others and said, "I didn't kill the female ape, huh?" Xin Yu couldn't help but sneer. "What did I say?" Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu, and the others frowned. Qin Zhong couldn't help but say, "Peak Master Su Zhu, we came to the fiend battlefield to earn battle merits for your buried sword peak. A female ape is worth 10 battle merits. Don't you think it's a bit?" "You're right, Daoist Qin." Su Zimo nodded and took the heaven bestowment token from his waist. He handed it to Lin Xuanzhen and said, "There are 10 battle merits here. Consider it as compensation for the female ape's life." Everyone looked at Su Zimo's heaven bestowment token. There were 20 battle merits on it. In other words, in addition to the 10 battle merits Lin Xuanzhen gave him at the beginning, Su Zimo also received 10 battle merits. And from the beginning to the end, no one knew how Su Zimo got these 10 battle merits. All right. Wang Dong hurried to smooth things over and said with a smile, "That's good. With these 10 battle merits, it's equivalent to killing the female ape." Lin Xuanzhen, Gong Sun Yu, Xin Yu, and the others didn't say anything. The atmosphere suddenly became cold. After a while, Xin Yu suddenly said, "Peak Master Su Zhu, I may have offended you with my words just now. Please forgive me. However, I still want to say something. Why don't you and junior sister Baiming leave first?" Kitsune could see the disdain in Xin Yu and the others' hearts. She didn't argue and just sneered slightly. She said to Su Zimo, "Master, let's go." Wang Dong looked helpless and could only smile bitterly. He said tactfully, "Peak Master Su Zhu, junior sister Baiming, don't think too much. After all, the fiend battlefield is too dangerous. At least you won't be in any danger when you return to the celestial tribute world." Su Zimo was silent. In fact, he entered the fiend battlefield because he was curious and wanted to see it. On the other hand, he wanted to protect the true immortals of Sword World. Now that he knew the true thoughts of everyone, Su Zimo didn't insist. The Sword World team was led by Lin Xuanzhen and supported by the myriad sword array. They shouldn't be in any danger in the fiend battlefield. At this thought, Su Zimo cupped his fists and said, "In that case, I'll bid farewell to everyone here. I'll wait for your triumphant return in the celestial tribute world." But Peak Master Su is wise. Seeing that Su Zimo agreed to leave, Xin Yu, Qin Zhong, and the others couldn't help but praise. The gloominess on their faces also quickly dissipated. Everyone was relieved and couldn't suppress the excitement in their hearts. Without Suju and Kitsune, it was equivalent to getting rid of a big burden. They could finally let loose and show off their skills. They could kill and fight to their heart's content in the fiend battlefield. Chapter 2796. Sky Tribute Square. Many beings from all 3,000 worlds would gather here. On the one hand, they were there to observe the terrain and environment of the fiend battlefield and the battles between the sinful spirits and demons to accumulate experience. On the other hand, Lu Yun, Yulan, and the others were there to observe the true immortal disciples of their respective worlds. Su Zimo, Lin Xuanjin, and the others had entered the fiend battlefield less than half a day ago. Lu Yun, Yulan, Feng Su, Bai Tianxing, and Meng Hao hadn't left yet. Naturally, the five of them also noticed the scene that Lin Xuanjin and others had just experienced in the demon battlefield. "It's good that Brother Su is out," Lu Yun said. "It's his first time in the Sky Tribute world, so he probably doesn't know much about the sinful spirits and demons. He won't be able to harden his heart. He'll be fine after a few more days of observation." Yu Lan nodded. "Without Brother Su and Kitsune, Sun Zhen and the others will be able to do whatever they want. Their chances of getting 1,000 battle merits in 10 days will greatly increase." Amidst their discussion, a giant curtain suddenly split open and two figures walked out. It was Su Zimo and Kitsune. The two returned to Sky Tribute Square, and the crack in the curtain closed in the blink of an eye, leaving no trace behind. Someone noticed Su Zimo and Kitsune's appearance and whispered, "Aren't those two from the Sword World? They came out in less than half a day?" "I followed the 10 from the Sword World for a while just now. Those two are completely useless inside. They're just burdens. The other 8 from the Sword World have to protect the 2 of them while fighting the sinful spirits." I also noticed that the green-robed cultivator seemed to pity the sinful spirits inside. "I wonder what he's thinking." "Keep your voices down," a true spirit whispered. "I heard that the green-robed cultivator is the Lord of the Sword World's 9th Sword Peak. He's very honorable." Another cultivator said, "I also heard that the Sword World established a 9th Sword Peak. So he's the Lord of the 9th Sword Peak? Why did you find a true immortal of the celestial stage? Isn't his cultivation too weak?" On the Sky Tribute Plaza, a few true spirits glanced at Su Zimo and whispered among themselves. As if out of consideration for Su Zimo's face, Lu Yun and the others did not mention anything about what happened in the evil demon battlefield, only offering a few words of consolation. Su Zimo was still worried, so he stayed behind and used his divine sense to observe Lin Xuanjin, Wang Dong, and the others. After one day, Lin Xuanjin's group continued forward. Although they encountered some unexpected situations in the evil demon battlefield, they were all daunting but not dangerous. Their harvests were bountiful. Moreover, without having to protect Su Zimo and Kitsune, the 8 of them could move more flexibly. If they encountered a large number of evil devils and sinful spirits, the 8 of them could form the myriad sword formation at any time to deal with the enemy. They could also disperse at any time to pursue the enemy. In just one day, Lin Xuanjin and the others had accumulated a total of 200 battle points. However, there was still an unforeseen event that caused Lu Yun, Yulan, and the others to break out in cold sweat. As Lin Xuanjin and the others advanced, they encountered a plain-clothed sword cultivator. In the evil demon battlefield, there were not only evil devils like Yakshas, Rakshasas, and Shura tribes, but also beings from other races, including human cultivators. It wasn't rare to encounter a sword cultivator here. However, this plain-clothed sword cultivator was one of the 10 great evil devils. Every one of the 10 great evil devils had comprehended a supreme combat art. They were all true spirit realm powerhouses. Less than a day after entering the evil demon battlefield, they encountered one of the 10 great evil devils. The 10 great evil devils were even stronger than most of the true spirits on the Jade Steel of War merit. The two sides didn't even need to fight. Lin Xuanjin and the others had almost no chance of winning. But for some reason, the plain-clothed swordsman didn't attack Lin Xuanjin and the others when he saw them. Perhaps it was out of disdain, or perhaps it was for some other reason. Lin Xuanzhen and the others hurriedly took a detour and stayed far away from the swordsman. Su Zimo stared at the plain-clothed swordsman for a while. The swordsman had a majestic build and wore coarse hemp garments. His hair was disheveled, his beard unkempt, and his face was ugly. He looked a little unkempt, with a wine gourd tied to one side of his waist and a rusty longsword on the other. "He's very strong indeed." Su Zimo nodded to himself. Even though they were separated by a giant screen, he could still sense a dangerous aura from this plain-clothed swordsman just by observing with his spirit consciousness. "What's his name?" Su Zimo turned to Lu Yun and the others and asked softly. Lu Yun shook his head. "I'm not sure. Everyone calls him a plain-clothed swordsman. No one knows his real name." "He's just a sinful spirit," Bai Tianxing said offhandedly. "He's just a sinful spirit. His fate is sealed anyway. He'll be killed by the true spirits of the 3,000 worlds sooner or later." The so-called evil demon battlefield was like a hunting ground for all living beings of the myriad races. The sinful spirits inside were the prey of all living beings. "Is there no exception?" Su Zimo asked. "Living beings in the fiend battlefield will never have the chance to leave?" "Of course not." Bai Tianxing shook his head. "Not just the fiend battlefield, even living beings in the 10 great sins will have to live eternally." Before he could finish, he seemed to think of something and suddenly changed his words. "There seems to be an exception." Lu Yun nodded. "I heard that a few hundred years ago, a demon was pardoned by the celestial world and left the fiend battlefield. No one knows where he went after that." Yulan said, "I've heard of that as well. It said that this demon went on a killing spree as soon as he was released into the fiend battlefield. Many geniuses of all living beings died tragically at his hands. In just a few years, he became one of the 10 great fiends at the fastest speed possible. Almost half of the geniuses on the Merit Jade Steel died at his hands." Meng Hao was speechless. "He's that strong?" Yulan nodded. "It said that this demon was born for slaughter. Not only are his claws and teeth sharp, every bone and scale on his body is a weapon of slaughter." When he heard that, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he frowned and asked out of curiosity, "What race is he?" "I think he's a divine Ho," Yulan said. "This race is extremely rare even in the upper world. There aren't many of them, but every one of them has heaven-defying battle strength. Could it be the Night Spirit?" Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, both surprised and delighted. The first thing that came to his mind was the Night Spirit. Su Zimo took a deep breath and asked again, "Did this demon leave behind a name?" "Yes," Lu Yun said. "He once occupied 2 mountains in the fiend battlefield. One was engraved with the word Night, and the other with the word Spirit. Many people called him the Night Spectre." Su Zimo was overjoyed. There was no mistake. It seemed that this so-called Night Spectre was the Night Spirit. Chapter 2797. Why would the Celestial Bestowment World pardon Dark Wraith? Su Zimo asked. "I'm not sure." Lu Yun shook his head. "Those of the Celestial Bestowment World are extremely mysterious and difficult to meet. They don't explain their actions to others either." After a pause, Lu Yun noticed that Su Zimo seemed rather interested in Dark Wraith. "I don't know much about Dark Wraith, but I've heard a few rumors." Su Zimo nodded. In any case, his greatest gain from this trip to the Celestial Bestowment World was most likely news of the Night Spirit. Though he didn't know why the Celestial Bestowment World had pardoned Night Spirit, or where Night Spirit had gone, he was certain that the Night Spirit had grown at a rapid pace. In fact, he was almost as strong as Qinglian's true body. All 7 of them had ascended to the upper worlds, but he'd only received news of the Night Spirit. There was no news of the other 6. The upper worlds were simply too vast, and the 3,000 worlds were boundless. Who knew how long it would take for the 7 brothers to reunite? "Brother Su, why don't you return to your residence and rest? There's no need to keep watch here," Lu Yun suggested. "From the looks of it, Lin Xuanzhen and the others shouldn't be in any danger. 1 or 2 people should be enough to keep an eye on them." Beings of all worlds and races gather on Celestial Bestowment Island. Apart from the Celestial Bestowment Pavilion, there are also some private markets that you can visit. Why don't I bring Brother Su around Heavenly Worship Island? Thank you for your kindness, Brother Feng, but I'll take a walk on my own. Su Zimo declined with a smile and left Heaven's Venerate sect with Baiming Shui. He looked around Heaven's Venerate Island before returning to his residence to rest. The next day passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Yun and Yu Lan returned to their residence with relaxed expressions. Everything's fine over there. Lin Xuanjun and the others went quite smoothly. They earned 200 merit points on the first day and 100 on the second. Lu Yun turned to Su Zimo. The four peak lords, Lu Yun, Yu Lan, Feng Su, and Bai Tianxing, split up. Two of them would keep watch, while the other two would return to rest and conserve their energy. Lu Yun, Yu Lan, and Su Zimo chatted idly. Actually, there's another benefit to renting a residence like this on Skyvenerate Island. Oh! Su Zimo revealed a questioning look. Lu Yun explained, normally speaking, fighting and killing is not allowed in the celestial tribute world. But if one rents this house like us, it's equivalent to the private territory of the sword world. In this house, if there are some fights, they will not be punished by the rules of the heaven realm. Su Zimo pondered and said, in that case, if beings from other realms come here, we have every reason to make them stay. Exactly. That's why, under normal circumstances, don't trespass on the private territories of other realms after coming to the celestial tribute world. Yulan continued, there's another benefit to a private residence like this. Fighting and killing is forbidden in the celestial tribute world, but if someone is bent on killing the other party, it'll be hard to guard against them. Oftentimes, life and death can be decided in the blink of an eye. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he understood. On the streets outside, if there was an immortal king expert who suddenly attacked a true spirit, that true spirit would almost certainly die. Although the immortal king would be killed by the rules of the celestial tribute world afterward, the sacred spirit would be dead beyond redemption. Renting a residence like this could prevent that from happening. If an outsider intruded, the sword world could act on its own and eliminate the danger prematurely. No wonder a residence like this costs 10 merit points a day. There's a reason for that. Su Zimo nodded to himself. In the next few days, Su Zimo would occasionally visit the Celestial Tribute Pavilion. Lin Xuanjun's group had a relatively smooth journey through the Fiend battlefield. Although they encountered some dangers during this period, they were able to avert them. On the seventh day, Lin Xuanjun's group had already obtained 1,000 merit points in the Fiend battlefield. This speed was 3 days faster than everyone's initial expectations. Of course, Lin Xuanjun's group did not immediately return to the Celestial Tribute Pavilion. Instead, they continued to search for evil spirits in the Fiend battlefield to obtain merit points. They could only stay in the Fiend battlefield for 10 days. There were still 3 days left. This was a rare opportunity, and no one was willing to waste it. Moreover, for Lin Xuanjun, Wang Dong, and the others, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hone their sword Dao. If they only sparred in the sword world, they would never be able to display the unique killing power of the sword Dao. Only through the baptism and tempering of blood could one forge a peerless sword Dao. In the blink of an eye, it was already the 8th day since Lin Xuanjun's group entered the Fiend battlefield. On this day, Su Zimo was resting with his eyes closed in his residence, comprehending Dao techniques. Suddenly, there was a burst of hurried footsteps outside the door. Immediately after, the door of the residence was slammed open and a faint stench of blood wafted in. Su Zimo's heart sank. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and arrived in the courtyard in a flash. At the same time, Feng Su and Bai Tianxing walked out of their rooms. Lu Yun and Yu Lan rushed in with ashen expressions. Behind them, Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu and the other 6 were shocked and furious. It was clear that they had suffered varying degrees of injuries. Fortunately, their lives were not in danger. However, Lin Xuanjun's situation was not looking good. Lin Xuanjun lay in Yu Lan's embrace with his eyes closed. His lips were pale and his breathing was weak. Even his life force was as thin as gossamer. What's going on? Bai Tianxing was enraged and asked loudly. Lu Yun's face was murderous as he grit his teeth. The people of Sky's Eye World suddenly entered the fiend battlefield and went straight for Lin Xuanjin's group. Sky's Eye World? Su Zimo's expression turned cold. Damn it, it's Sky's Eye World again. Bai Tianxing cursed. Feng Su's expression was ugly as well. Although the Cold Eye Monarch had said some harsh words, the past few days had been peaceful. Everyone thought that this matter was over for the time being. Who would have thought that Sky's Eye World would take revenge so quickly? Feng Su asked coldly, is it Xia Yin of Sky's Eye World? Xia Yin was ranked first on the battle merit Jade Steel. No. Lu Yun shook his head. If Xia Yin came, Lin Xuanjin's group would have been wiped out. It's the other Sky's Eye clan member on the battle merit Jade Steel, Xiang Meng. A string of information flashed through Su Zimo's mind. Xiang Meng was ranked 57th on the battle merit Jade Steel. Bai Tianxing frowned. Does Lin Xuanjin's group have the myriad sword formation and the bestowment medallion? How did this happen? In Bai Tianxing's opinion, even if the myriad sword formation couldn't stop Xiang Meng's group, Lin Xuanjin's group could have used the medallion to leave the fiend battlefield. Lu Yun clenched his fists at the mention of this and sighed heavily. Yu Lan looked at Lin Xuanjin in her arms with grief and indignation. Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu, and the others lowered their heads in shame. Lu Yun spoke after a while. Xiang Meng's combat art is the space-time imprisonment. The myriad sword formation can't operate under its influence and can't unleash any of its power. Chapter 2798. In fact, Su Zimo had already discovered this problem in the fiend battlefield. When they'd first entered the battlefield, they'd been attacked by a group of Rakshasas. One of the female Rakshasas had used a quasi-supreme art to stop time, creating a flaw in the myriad sword formation. If a quasi-supreme combat art was already so powerful, a true supreme art like Time Freeze would have been able to break through Lin Xuanjin and the others' formation. Feng Su frowned. But how did Lin Xuanjin suffer such serious injuries? Where's her bestowment medallion? He was rather puzzled. Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu, and the others were injured, but their lives weren't in danger. Lin Xuanjin was the strongest among them, so how could her injuries be worse than Wang Dong and the others? Lu Yun and Yu Lan's faces were ashen as they remained silent. Su Zimo's consciousness swept over Lin Xuanjin and he suddenly frowned. She burned her nascent spirit? He sighed, hesitating to speak. It's all our fault. Wang Dong lowered his voice, looking guilty. We were bound by Xiang Meng's supreme combat art. Our lives were hanging by a thread and we had no chance of escaping the fiend battlefield. Senior Sister Lin suddenly summoned Altus and cut through the restraints, telling us to leave as soon as possible. We didn't think much of it. When we returned to Sky Tribute Square, we realized that Senior Sister Lin had used a secret art to burn her nascent spirit, allowing the sword to unleash the power of a supreme combat art and break through the restraints of time and space. Hearing this, everyone who heard this was moved. Lin Xuanjin had sacrificed herself to save Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu, and the others. Lin Xuanjin cultivated the Tao of the Supreme Sword and was usually quite aloof to both people and matters. However, she'd made such a choice in the face of danger. Senior Sister Lin's strength quickly waned after she burned her nascent spirit and suffered a backlash. Xiang Meng also took her bestowment medallion. Gong Sun Yu's eyes reddened. If I'd known this would happen, I would have stayed by Senior Sister Lin's side and fought alongside her. Yu Lan shook her head and said, It's useless for you to stay. You'll just die in vain. Sun Jin's action is to let you all live. In fact, Wang Dong and the others were not cowards. However, Wang Dong and the others thought that Lin Xuanjin would return to the celestial tribute world as soon as possible like them. Unexpectedly, after Lin Xuanjin ignited his primordial spirit and released the immortal slaying sword, he suffered a violent backlash. Subsequently, he was entangled by Xiang Meng and the others and had no chance to use the token of heaven to escape. Everyone could clearly see that Lin Xuanjin's condition was extremely poor. He was like a lamp that had run out of oil. Even her primordial spirit was heavily injured and covered in cracks. Even the immortal kings present were helpless against this kind of injury, and they were powerless to reverse the situation. Even if he brought Lin Xuanjun back to the sword world, it would be too late to find an emperor lord. Lin Xuanjun wouldn't be able to hold on until then. Yu Lan's expression was sorrowful. Looking at the unconscious Lin Xuanjun in his arms, a trace of pity flashed across his eyes. Lin Xuanjun was the strongest true immortal of the ultimate sword peak in this generation. His future achievements were limitless. Unexpectedly, he actually suffered such a calamity in the fiend battlefield. Lin Xuanjun's fall was also an irreparable loss to the sword world. Su Zimo knew about Lin Xuanjun's injuries and was not anxious. Another doubt flashed in his heart and he asked, Lin Xuanjun's token of heaven was taken away by Xiang Meng. How did she come back? The Heavenly Eye world came aggressively for revenge. Back in the Seven Stars Sword world, the Heavenly Eye clan members who died at the hands of Lin Xuanjun were the most. Xiang Meng would naturally count this blood debt on Lin Xuanjun and would never let her off. As for Lin Xuanjun, how did she return to the Sky Tribute Square under the watch of Xiang Meng and the others when she was severely injured and without her token of heaven? At the mention of this, Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu and the others had conflicted expressions. They seemed to be ashamed, confused. Eventually, Xin Yu stood out and stammered, that female ape was the one who saved senior sister Lin. Su Zimo was stunned. There were 10 spatial nodes in the fiend battlefield that changed frequently. It was difficult for the living beings of the 3,000 worlds to find a spatial node within 10 days. However, it was not difficult for the evil fiends and sinful spirits that lived in them all year round to find a spatial node. Shen Yu continued, that female ape carried senior sister Lin on her back and fled under the pursuit of Xiang Meng and the others. She sent senior sister Lin into a spatial node. Suddenly, the entire courtyard fell silent. Everyone had seen what had happened in the cave a few days ago. The female ape's life was saved because of Su Zimo's persistence. Because of this, Xin Yu and the others got into some arguments with Su Zimo and even tried to persuade him to leave the fiend battlefield. Xin Yu and the others did not like Su Zimo's benevolence and could not understand it. In their hearts, the evil fiends and sinful spirits there were all extremely evil and evil people. There was no need to be merciful. Killing evil fiends and sinful spirits was equivalent to enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. Lin Xuanjun had also told Su Zimo that he was not suited for the fiend battlefield. Even if he saved that female ape, that bastard would still repay kindness with ingratitude in the future. However, it was this female ape, the sinful spirit that everyone spoke of, that saved Lin Xuanjun from the hands of Xiang Meng and the others. This matter made Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu, Xin Yu, and the others suspicious for the first time. Were the evil fiends and sinful spirits there really cruel and evil people? Why did this female ape know how to repay kindness? If they had killed that female ape back then, Lin Xuanjun would not have been able to leave the fiend battlefield and would have ended up in Xiang Meng's hands. Who knew what kind of humiliation he would have suffered? Were we wrong? Everyone was confused, puzzled, doubtful, and relieved. Fortunately, Su Zimo's persistence saved the female ape's life. It was also because of this that Lin Xuanjun was able to escape from Xiang Meng's pursuit. This was a cause and effect. These people did not realize that if not for their rejection of Su Zimo, this scene might not have happened. And this was another cause and effect. After a long silence, Su Zimo asked, "What happened to that female ape?" Wang Dong, Xin Yu, and the others lowered their heads. After an unknown period of time, Xin Yu said softly, "She died." He did not dare to raise his head and look into Su Zimo's eyes. He would never forget the scene he saw through the giant screen. The female ape broke through the saber lights and sword shadows to save Lin Xuanjun and fled. The female ape was covered in injuries from being chased by Xiang Meng and the others. However, she protected Lin Xuanjun with her life and fled to a spatial node, using the last of her strength to send Lin Xuanjun out. The evil fiends and sinful spirits inside could not leave through the spatial node. The female ape could no longer run and was caught by Xiang Meng and the others and killed as easily as crushing an ant. It was just a sinful spirit. So what if it died? However, for some reason, Shinyu felt a trace of guilt in his heart. Perhaps it was towards Suzimo, or perhaps it was towards that female ape. Suzimo closed his eyes expressionlessly. Everyone was immersed in their sorrowful emotions and no one noticed him. Kitsune was the only one who could vaguely sense that her master was truly enraged. Chapter 2799. Let's go back. He took a deep breath after a long pause. Fallen leaves return to their roots. No matter what, we have to bring Lin Xuanjun back to Sword World. Sword World's trip to the Celestial Bestowment World had been a complete failure. Yesterday, Wang Dong and the others had transferred their battle merits to Lin Xuanjun's Celestial Bestowment Medallion, totaling 1,000 points. But now, Xiang Meng had also taken away these 1,000 battle merits. Most importantly, Lin Xuanjun, the first true immortal of Sword World, was seriously injured and on the verge of death. This was a huge blow to their confidence. Lin Xuanjun can still be saved. Right at this moment, a voice sounded. Everyone turned to the source of the voice and focused on Suzimo. The several thousand sword cultivators in the courtyard were originally from the Seven Stars Sword World, so they didn't know much about Suzimo. They only knew that he was the peak lord of the 9th Sword Peak, and that his cultivation wasn't very high. Though they didn't say anything, they had their suspicions. If even the immortal kings present couldn't do anything, what could a true immortal do? Lu Yun looked at Suzimo and seemed to think of something. His eyes lit up and he hurriedly asked, "Is this true? Brother Su, can you really save Xuanjun?" Yu Lan looked at Suzimo, his voice trembling. "Leave it to me." Suzimo was calm. "Put Lin Xuanjun in the room. Everyone, wait outside and don't disturb us." Yu Lan was still a bit hesitant, but the young man nudged him and transmitted, "You're too concerned. Don't forget about Su Zhu's bloodline." Realization dawned on Yu Lan when he heard Lu Yun's reminder. Kitsune's injuries were worse than Lin Xuanjun's during her tribulation, but even Su Zhu could save her. Xuanjun will definitely be fine. Thinking of this, Yu Lan hurriedly carried Lin Xuanjun into a room next to her. Suzimo followed her in. Yu Lan exited the room and closed the door. For Suzimo, saving Lin Xuanjun was not a difficult task. He still had the carefree fruit in his storage bag. Using the fretless fruit to nourish Lin Xuanjun's injuries, and using the lotus fingers to continuously inject vitality into Lin Xuanjun's body, Lin Xuanjun would gradually recover under continuous stimulation. Everyone from Sword World was waiting in the courtyard, silently praying. It was already the 8th day since they came to the Celestial Bestowment World. There were only 2 days left. Lu Yun and the others believed in Suzimo's methods, but they weren't sure if 2 days would be enough. The wait seemed extremely long and torturous. Finally, after another day and a half, the door to the room finally opened. Suzimo stood at the door, his face slightly pale and devoid of blood. Continuously casting spells for an entire day and a half was not a small consumption for him. "How is it?" Lu Yun, Yu Lan and the others were nervous and uneasy. Suzimo did not say anything and merely nodded. Lu Yun, Yu Lan and the others were overjoyed. Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu and the others could not help but cheer as well. With Lin Xuanjun still alive, they would feel less tormented. Even if they did not obtain any battle merits on this trip, it could not be considered a failure. The 4 peak masters, Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu and the others were concerned about Lin Xuanjun and rushed into the room one after another. "She might be unconscious for a while longer." Suzimo said, "Time is a little tight. She hasn't fully recovered from her injuries and needs to recuperate for a while longer." Everyone could see it clearly. Lin Xuanjun was lying flat on the bed. Although she was still unconscious, color had returned to her face and her breathing was stable. The cracks on her essence spirit had vanished as well and the vitality in her body was gradually recovering. "She's alive! She's alive!" Yu Lan was excited. Lu Yun and the others were beaming as well. "As the peak master, don't be a coward. Go and seek revenge from the Heavenly Eye clan. Yes, kill Xiang Meng." Ha! A celestial stage true immortal from Sword World barged into the fiend battlefield alone to fight the supreme true spirit of Heavenly Eye clan. How impressive is that? Even if he dies, his name will go down in history. Are you looking for the location of Xiang Meng and the others? They're in the third zone. Su Zimo finally heard some useful information from the crowd. Through the third screen, he quickly locked onto Xiang Meng's location in the third zone. Su Zimo withdrew his divine sense and calmly walked to the teleportation array. With a flash of light, he disappeared from the heavens venerate square. Chapter 2800. Looking at Su Zimo's disappearing figure, the living beings on the Sky Tribute Square were stunned and could not react for a moment. Is the Peak Master of the Ninth Sword Peak a fool? He really went in? Although everyone was egging him on, not many people thought that Su Zimo would really dare to enter the fiend battlefield. One of the dragons pondered for a moment and analyzed. Could it be that the title of Peak Master gave him an illusion that he's invincible and can even kill a supreme true spirit? Look, he landed in District 4. Look at the direction he's heading. He's indeed going for Xiang Meng. That's crazy. I haven't seen such a naive cultivator in a long time. Yeah. Don't talk about taking revenge on Xiang Meng. With his cultivation realm, it'll be good enough if he can enter District 3 alive. That's right. Along the way, if the evil spirits and sinful spirits find him, and if he is a lone cultivator, they will definitely not let him go. After such a discussion, more than half of the cultivators on the Sky Tribute Square turned their attention to Su Zimo. After entering the fiend battlefield through the teleportation formation, one would land at a random location. Of course, since he had already determined that Xiang Meng was in District 3, he did not need to delay and could just rush over. Although the location of Xiang Meng and the others would also change, it would be much easier to find them once they were there. Su Zimo soared into the air and did not hide his tracks. Flying in the air, he released a supreme divine ability and traveled thousands of miles in an instant. He's really courting death. Seeing this, many true spirits on the Sky Tribute Square shook their heads with mocking expressions. I take back what I said just now. A Protoss sneered. Given the way this person is traveling, I'm afraid he won't live for more than an hour, let alone enter District 3. The other true spirits were also in agreement. Everyone knew that in the fiend battlefield, the safest way to avoid being targeted by more evil spirits was to travel carefully on the ground. Su Zimo's method of flying in the air was too eye-catching and could easily expose himself to the many evil spirits. Unless one was a supreme true spirit, no one would dare to use this method to travel in the evil demon battlefield. As expected, everyone was still discussing, and some of the sinful spirits had already set their eyes on Su Zimo. In front of them, there was a living being that was 1,000 feet tall, and it was surrounded by pitch-black demonic chi. Its huge body was as indomitable as a demon god, and its appearance was similar to that of a human. However, it had 2 sharp horns on its head that were covered with mysterious whorls. Ashura. Shura's true spirit had 4 arms and 2 heads. At the same time, it let out a deafening roar in the direction of Su Zimo. At the same time, the Shura avatar waved its 4 gigantic arms, spreading its gigantic palms that could blot out the sky and cover the sun. Then, it came crashing down on Su Zimo. Su Zimo paid it no heed at all. A pair of almost transparent wings suddenly grew out from his back. With a flap of the wings, Su Zimo's speed increased tremendously, rising to a whole new level. Coupled with powerful escape techniques such as Heaven's Feet and Earth traversing golden light, he passed through the gaps between the Shura avatar's fingers. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo left this Shura avatar in the dust. Even the group of sinful spirits that had been prepared to surround and kill Su Zimo missed. They had not expected that Su Zimo's movement technique would be so fast. These sinful spirits gave chase for a while more, but not only were they unable to catch up, but they also completely lost track of Su Zimo. In the Sky Tribute Square, a Protoss let out a cold snort and said, "This person's movement technique isn't bad, but it's useless." No matter how fast his movement technique is, can it compare to the evil demon Heavenly Yaksha inside? That's right. With how unbridled he is in the air, it won't be long before he gets targeted by the Heavenly Yakshas. Just as everyone was discussing, a group of heavenly yakshas descended from the sky, letting out ear-piercing cries. Their expressions were savage as they pounced toward Suzimo. Suzimo did not wish to waste any time on the way and could not be bothered with this group of yakshas. Another pair of wings grew out from beneath the ethereal wings. This pair of wings was surrounded by thunderbolts, moving as fast as the wind. Tempest wings. Ethereal wings and tempest wings moved at the same time. A series of electric sparks flashed on Suzimo's body, and his speed increased tremendously once again. He instantly dashed out of the encirclement of the many heavenly yakshas and disappeared from where he was. For a moment, all the heavenly yakshas were stunned. By the time they reacted, Suzimo had already fled far into the horizon. With their movement techniques and speed, there was no way they could catch up to him. All the living beings in the Sky Tribute Square were dumbfounded. Even the supreme true spirits on the War Merit Jade Steel might not have such movement techniques and speed. A barbarian said, "No wonder this person dares to enter the evil demon battlefield alone. So, he has something like this to rely on." The Protoss was still stubborn as he said coldly, "So what if he can escape from the heavenly yakshas? He better pray that he doesn't encounter the Rakshasa ghosts inside." In the evil demon battlefield, the ones with the fastest movement techniques were not the heavenly yakshas but the Rakshasa ghosts. Suzimo continued to speed, encountering several obstructions along the way. However, he relied on his terrifying movement techniques and speed to shake them off easily. Many evil demons and sinful spirits did not even manage to touch the corner of his clothes. When he just entered the 3rd district, he was targeted by a group of Rakshasa. The many living beings in the Sky Tribute Square also noticed this scene. Their spirits were lifted as they looked forward to the next hunt. However, the strange thing was that the group of Rakshasa had just charged forward when they suddenly dispersed for some reason, allowing Suzimo to leave without stopping him at all. What's going on? What the hell is going on? All the living beings on the Sky Tribute Plaza were dumbstruck, their faces full of astonishment. Only Suzimo in the evil demon battlefield could vaguely guess the reason. A few days ago, he had made a move to intimidate the female commander of the Rakshasa race. The female commander must have instructed the other Rakshasa race members not to provoke him. Without the obstruction of the Rakshasa race, the other evil demons and sinful spirits did not affect him at all. Suzimo's journey in the evil demon battlefield could be said to be smooth. He entered the 3rd district at the fastest speed possible and sped towards Xiang Meng and the others. Before long, Suzimo finally arrived at his destination. However, Xiang Meng and the others were not here. He observed carefully in the vicinity and discovered some bloodstains from a battle. Following these clues, he continued searching and finally caught up to Xiang Meng and the others at the foot of a mountain. Xiang Meng was a supreme true spirit after all and sensed it immediately. She turned around and saw a scholarly green-robed cultivator flying over from the air not far away. How dare a sword cultivator of the sword world enter? When Xiang Meng caught sight of the sect badge on the green-robed cultivator's waist, she recognized him instantly. The heavenly eye on her glabella cracked open with a chilling killing intent. Scanning with her spirit consciousness, Xiang Meng could not help but scoff when she detected the cultivation realm of the person. Raising her brow, she asked, "A heavenly being perfected immortal. What are you doing here?" "I'm here to kill you," the green-robed cultivator replied. End of chapter. The two of them were merely an arm's length apart. If Xiang Meng was slower by a second, he might have died by now. Thankfully, he was not careless and released a supreme divine power right away when he realized that something was amiss. This was the experience accumulated through countless baptisms of blood and the tempering of life and death. Looking at Su Zimo, who was inches away, Xiang Meng broke out in cold sweat and was enraged. "Aunt!" Xiang Meng gritted her teeth and glared at Su Zimo with her 3 eyes widened in rage. She said coldly with a murderous aura, "You're still too inexperienced to kill me. I'm going to dismember you and have you die bit by bit in fear. Eventually, I'll grind your bones to dust." Crack, crack. All of a sudden, a series of strange sounds came from Su Zimo's body. Right in front of Xiang Meng, 4 pairs of ivory tusks that were as white as jade grew out of Su Zimo's back slowly, emitting a terrifying aura. Under normal circumstances, space-time shackles would not only lock onto a cultivator's body, but also their bloodline, essence spirit, and even quintessential essence Tao techniques. But now, an incomparably powerful divine power surged from Su Zimo's body. Unless a supreme divine power. Only a supreme divine ability could fight against his supreme divine ability. At the thought of that, Xiang Meng was shocked. This perfected immortal was only at the heavenly being realm, but he had comprehended a supreme divine power. Immediately after, the power within Su Zimo's body skyrocketed. His glabella shone and his spirit consciousness surged. Suddenly, a blinding blood-colored sword light with a chilling killing intent burst forth from his body. That sword light seemed as though it could kill everything and destroy heaven and earth. That sword light seemed to contain the strongest killing intent in the world and instantly broke through the space-time shackles that shrouded Su Zimo's body. Supreme divine power, immortal slaying sword. Pissed. Xiang Meng sucked in a breath of cold air. Her expression changed drastically, and disbelief appeared on her face. A second supreme divine power. How was that possible? That person's essence spirit did not collapse after releasing 2 supreme divine powers consecutively? Not only that, the immortal slaying sword released by that person could break through his space-time shackles. This meant that this perfected immortal at the heavenly being realm, who was 2 cultivation realms lower than him, could definitely take him head-on in terms of combat strength. A supreme perfected spirit. The green-robed cultivator before her was a supreme perfected spirit expert. Xiang Meng was truly shocked. The moment she was distracted, a green light burst forth from Su Zimo's glabella. Instantly, it entered Xiang Meng's body and exited from his back. Xing. Right in front of the horrified gazes of the heavenly eye race beings, Xiang Meng's body was split into 2 from the middle by the green light. Fresh blood spewed out and her organs spilled all over the ground. Xiang Meng's essence spirit was destroyed and she was dead. The green light revealed its true form. It was a sharp and cold jade-green longsword. It was the Qingping sword. The strongest innate talent of the heavenly eye race was the heavenly eye in their glabella. Because of that innate eye, it was easier for them to comprehend the mystic arts and techniques and the mysteries of heaven and earth. That heavenly eye was the source of their power. However, the bloodline and physique of the heavenly eye race was not considered superior among the 10,000 races. Su Zimo broke free from the space-time shackles. Given this distance, Xiang Meng could not defend against his killing attack. Furthermore, he had summoned the Qingping sword right away and Xiang Meng did not even have a chance to dodge. Initially, Xiang Meng was wearing a layer of defensive armor that was torn apart by the Qingping sword. It was a treasure that was only created after the Qinglian ascended to grade 12. There were not many divine weapons in the entire 3,000 realms that could defend against the sharpness of the Qingping sword, let alone a physical body. Chapter 2802. The remaining 8 true spirits of the heavenly eye race opened their mouths wide, their faces full of fear. They were all dumbfounded. Xiang Meng had died too quickly and too suddenly. As such, they could not accept it or believe it. How was that possible? Xiang Meng was a supreme true spirit. A true spirit expert whose combat strength could be ranked in the top 100 in the entire 3,000 worlds was slashed into two by a single slash just like that. In their eyes, Xiang Meng had died too easily after being slashed by Su Zimo. However, in reality, Su Zimo had to release 2 supreme mystiques consecutively to be able to kill Xiang Meng in a single slash together with the Qingping sword. Although it seemed like a short exchange, only the dead Xiang Meng knew how terrifying it was. While the remaining 8 heavenly eye race true spirits were stunned, Su Zimo did not stop. The Qingping sword sliced Xiang Meng's body apart and Su Zimo followed the sword through the blood mist. Wielding the Qingping sword, he appeared before the 2 heavenly eye race true spirits instantly. Buzz! The Qingping sword streaked across the 2 of them and shuddered, releasing a ball of resplendent green light. The heads of the 2 heavenly eye race true spirits were cut off neatly and tossed high into the air. Sharp sword chi surged into their consciousness and minced the essence spirits of the 2 heavenly eye race true spirits. The remaining 6 heavenly eye race true spirits finally reacted. 2 heavenly eye race true spirits opened their heavenly eyes angrily and wanted to resist. Petrifying eye. Eye of the storm. A strange power descended upon Su Zimo and surged into his body. In reality, if the petrifying eye continued to evolve, he might be able to comprehend the supreme mystique spacetime shackles. However, the power of petrification could not restrict Su Zimo at all. Su Zimo was a grade 12 creation Qinglian and the power of petrification did not affect him at all. He did not stop moving. Wielding the Qingping sword, he sliced through the storm that had just formed in front of him and arrived before the 2 heavenly eye race beings. He pierced the glabella of one of them. With a backhand slash, he split the other into 2. Seeing this, the remaining 4 heavenly eye clan beings did not dare to resist. They all touched the heaven bestowment token at their waists and prepared to escape the fiend battlefield. Su Zimo spun the Qingping sword in his hand and slashed at the 4 people. In an instant, the Qingping sword seemed to have transformed into countless sword shadows, descending from the sky. The space around the 4 heavenly eye clan beings twisted and collapsed, forming a huge tomb. Countless green sword shadows intertwined and fell into the tomb, forming a lifeless sword tomb, cutting off all signs of life. As for the 4 heavenly eye race true spirits, they didn't manage to escape in time and were trapped in the sword tomb. They were pierced by countless green sword shadows, and their bodies were riddled with holes. Blood gushed out and they died. The Tao of sword burial appeared for the first time in front of the world, instantly burying the 4 true spirits of the heavenly eye clan. The great battle started suddenly, and then came to an abrupt end. In the blink of an eye, Xiang Meng's group of 10 from the Heaven's Vision world was completely annihilated, with no survivors. Sky Tribute Square suddenly became so silent that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. All the creatures from the various worlds witnessed the scene that had just taken place on the demonic battlefield. They were all shocked, and their faces were filled with horror. What happened earlier on was beyond everyone's imagination. Xiang Meng was killed by the Peak Master of 9th Sword Peak with a single slash. The other heavenly eye clan true spirits were also slaughtered like vegetables. The entire process took merely a few breaths and Xiang Meng's group was completely annihilated. Even with the Sky Tribute badge, they could not escape the calamity. This was not a great battle, but more like a one-sided massacre. Looking at the green-robed man who was cleaning up the battlefield in the fiend battlefield and that delicate face of his, many true spirits felt a chill in their hearts. Since when did such a ruthless person appear in Sword World? It was no wonder that this person was a peak master. In the courtyard of Sword World, Lin Xuanzhen gradually regained consciousness amidst the anticipation and worry of many sword cultivators. Lin Xuanzhen's first reaction after waking up was to touch the Sky Tribute badge on her waist. After touching nothing, a look of disappointment flashed through her eyes. Yu Lan could see the disappointment in Lin Xuanzhen's heart and consoled, "Xuanzhen, it's all right. As long as you're fine, you'll still have chances to earn battle merits in the future." As though she thought of something, Lin Xuanzhen suddenly asked, "What about the female ape? How is she?" "She's dead." Yu Lan sighed gently and did not hide anything. Lin Xuanzhen lowered her head. Although she was expressionless, her heart ached. Recalling what she said to Su Zimo in the cave back then, she felt even more guilty and regretful. "Xuanzhen, how are you feeling? Are you feeling unwell?" Yu Lan asked again with concern when she saw that Lin Xuanzhen was silent. Lin Xuanzhen snapped out of her daze and checked her body. Although her injuries were not healed, she was fine. Furthermore, there were no traces of her burning of her essence spirit as though it had never happened. How can this be? Lin Xuanzhen was well aware of the consequences of burning her essence spirit, not to mention that she'd been severely injured by Xiang Meng. There was no way she'd survive. "Master, were you the ones who saved me?" Lin Xuanzhen asked. "It was Peak Lord Su Zhu," Yu Lan replied. Yu Lan said, "Brother Su spent a day and a half to pull you back from the gates of hell. He's the only one who can save you." Lin Xuanzhen vaguely recalled that someone had been casting spells on her while she was in a daze, injecting vitality into her body. She hadn't expected it to be Su Zhu. "Where's Peak Lord Su?" Lin Xuanzhen struggled to sit up on her bed and prepared to thank Su Zimo in person. "Brother Su, he was here just now." Yu Lan, Lu Yun, and the others looked around for Su Zimo. Kitsune was about to speak when a burst of arrogant laughter came from outside the door. "Ha ha! Brother Lu, you didn't expect us to meet so soon, did you? Is that Lin Xuanzhen of your sword world still alive?" The person's words were full of mockery and schadenfreude. It was the cold-eye monarch of the Heaven's Eye world. Lu Yun, Yu Lan, and the others' faces darkened. They turned and walked out of the room, looking coldly at the cold-eye monarch and the others. The cold-eye monarch saw Lu Yun and the smile in his eyes deepened. "Lu Yun, why are you looking at me so angrily? I didn't kill Lin Xuanzhen. It's her own fault for not being strong enough to defeat Xiang Meng of the Heaven's Eye world. She can only blame herself for not being strong enough to defeat someone of the same level." Lu Yun sneered. "Don't worry, cold-eye monarch. I'm not as shameless and cruel as you. Because your son's Heaven's Eye was blinded in the fiendish battlefield, you used the power of the Heaven's Eye world to take revenge and slaughter millions of innocent lives." "Oomph." At the mention of this, the cold-eye monarch withdrew his smile and said slowly, "Lu Yun, I've told you before that the blood of the Heaven's Eye clan will not be spilled in vain. Lin Xuanzhen's death is a lesson to the sword world. Don't meddle in other people's business, and don't meddle in the affairs of the Heaven's Eye world." At this moment, a weak voice came from the courtyard. "Cold-eye monarch, I've disappointed you." Lin Xuanzhen slowly walked out of the room and said indifferently, "I, Lin Xuanzhen, am very lucky. I won't die yet." Chapter 2803. He didn't die? The cold-eye king's face darkened when he saw Lin Xuanzhen walk out. Yesterday's situation, he had seen it clearly at Sky Tribute Square. With such heavy injuries, how could he have survived until now? And Lin Xuanzhen seemed to be in good condition. He had obviously escaped danger. The cold-eye king's expression changed, but he quickly recovered and smiled. "Not really. You're lucky this time, but you won't be so lucky next time. Moreover, Xiang Meng from the All-Eye world took away your 1,000 battle merits. You're the ones who should be disappointed," Lu Yun said indifferently. "Losing battle merits is nothing. As long as you're still alive, you'll be able to get them back one day." "Ha ha." The cold-eye king laughed. "Lu Yun, you're too naive. As long as the All-Eye world exists, the people of the sword world will never be able to get battle merits. The All-Eye clan will kill the people of the sword world every time we see them. If we see them twice, we'll kill them twice. We'll kill until the true spirits of the sword world can never rise again. We'll make sure that the people of the sword world will never dare to set foot on the fiend battlefield." Bai Tianxing was enraged and glared at the All-Eye King. If it wasn't for the fact that fighting was prohibited in the Sky Tribute world, He might have already fought the Cold Eye King. Lu Yun, Yulan, and the others also looked gloomy. Cold Eye King, don't push us too far. Feng Su clenched his fists. Push us too far? The Cold Eye King chuckled. You said it well when you were meddling in other people's business. The Fiend battlefield is a battle between people of the same level. Even if you die, you can only blame yourself for not being strong enough. How can you push us too far? Lu Yun took a deep breath and said, Cold Eye King, your All Eye clan has 2 true spirits now. You have the right to be arrogant. However, one day, the Sword World will also give birth to a true spirit. We'll see then on the Fiend battlefield. That was the truth. So far, the 9th Sword Peak Lord Su Zhu had comprehended the immortal slang sword. As long as she reached the Dongshu realm, she would be a true spirit. Kitsune had gone through the unprecedented 99 heavenly tribulations and obtained the inheritance of another supreme Sword Dao divine ability. There was also Yun Ting, whose talent in Sword Dao was rarely seen since ancient times. He had long comprehended the immortal extermination sword to the level of a quasi-supreme divine ability. Both he and Kitsune were only in the consolidation stage. As long as they didn't die prematurely and had enough time to cultivate in the future, they had a very high chance of growing into the supreme true spirit. Of course, the cultivation of these 3 people was relatively low. If they wanted to cultivate to the Dongshu stage, they might need tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. So far, the one with the highest chance of becoming a supreme true spirit was still Lin Xuanjun. The Cold Eye Monarch purposely taunted, Which day is it? In my opinion, why not do it today? If you have the guts, then don't argue with me here. Let your Sword World's true spirits enter the Fiend battlefield and speak. Lu Yun snorted without a word. Not to mention that Lin Xuanjun, Wang Dong, and the others were injured. Even if the 8 of them recovered from their injuries, he wouldn't let them enter the Fiend battlefield and risk their lives. What's more, the Cold Eye King was obviously trying to provoke everyone from the Sword World. Naturally, Lu Yun and the rest wouldn't fall for it. The Cold Eye Monarch didn't conceal his voice. The commotion here had attracted the attention of many true spirits from other realms. Everyone gathered in a corner to discuss. What's going on? Why are the Celestial Eye World and Sword World on bad terms? I heard that the Celestial Eye World destroyed the 7-star Sword World and killed hundreds of millions of lives. Later, the Sword World's true spirits ran into them and saved thousands of Celestial Eye World's cultivators. Thousands of Celestial Eye World's true spirits died as a result. Xiang Meng led 9 Celestial Eye World's true spirits to defeat Lin Xuanjun and the others in the Fiend battlefield yesterday. Lin Xuanjun almost lost his life. Seeing that more and more people were gathering around, a Celestial Eye World's true spirits laughed loudly. Everyone, take a look. The true spirits in the Sword World are all trash. They're as timid as mice. They're so scared by our Celestial Eye World that they don't even dare to enter the Fiend battlefield. Another Celestial Eye World's true spirits said, If it were up to me, all of you sword cultivators should scram back to the Sword World and hide obediently. Don't ever come to the Celestial Tribute World, lest you embarrass yourselves. The discussion in the crowd grew louder, and there were occasional bursts of laughter. Everyone in the Sword World's true spirits felt their faces burning with anger. However, everyone knew that entering the Fiend battlefield now was tantamount to suicide. Everyone could only swallow this humiliation. Lin Xuanjun, Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu, and the other top cultivators of the various sword peaks lowered their heads and clenched their fists. They didn't say a word. Who said that no one in the Sword World dares to enter the Fiend battlefield? At this moment, a woman's voice came from the crowd in the courtyard. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice and saw a young woman walking out from the crowd. Kitsune, stop fooling around. Lu Yun frowned and reprimanded. The Cold Eye Monarch was afraid that no one in the Sword World would accept the challenge. His gaze fell on Kitsune and he asked with interest, Little girl, you dare to enter the Fiend battlefield? It's not me. Kitsune shook her head and said, It's my master. The Cold Eye Monarch raised his brows and asked, Who is your master? Come out and let me take a look. Kitsune said, He's not here. He should have entered the fiend battlefield by now. What? Hearing this, the Cold-Eye Monarch didn't have any reaction. Lu Yun, Yulan, and the rest were shocked and shocked. Lu Yun and the rest thought that Kitsune was joking. They quickly spread out their divine senses and searched the surroundings. When they didn't find any trace of Su Zimo, they realized the seriousness of this matter. Brother Su really went to the fiend battlefield? Lu Yun looked at Kitsune with a serious expression and asked in a deep voice, When did he leave? Kitsune thought for a moment and said, After saving senior sister Lin, he left. Lu Yun was anxious and angry. He shouted at Kitsune, Are you stupid? Why didn't you stop him? When it came to Su Zimo as a peak master, Lu Yun had lost his composure and his tone was much heavier. How could I stop my master if he wanted to go to the fiend battlefield? Kitsune also found it strange and asked back. Moreover, in her heart, there was no need to stop her master. Lu Yun said, Even if you couldn't stop him, it's still not too late to say it earlier. But now, Yulan looked guilty and regretful. It's our fault. We didn't pay attention to the others when we saw that Sun Jin had recovered. Feng Su sighed and said, The main thing is that no one expected Brother Su to be so impulsive and run to the fiend battlefield. The Cold-Eye Monarch looked at the worried faces of Lu Yun and the rest outside the door and was naturally happy. He didn't expect that there would be people from the Sword World going to the fiend battlefield to die. A Heavenly Eye clan member whispered a few words in the Cold-Eye Monarch's ear. The Cold-Eye Monarch's eyes lit up. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and said in a strange tone, Oh, I just heard that this sword cultivator surnamed Su is the peak master of the 9th Sword Peak. That's amazing. As a peak master, there must be something extraordinary about him. Chapter 2804. Everyone in the Sword World could hear the mockery in the Cold-Eye King's words. Only Kitsune nodded and said seriously, You're right. Master is indeed extraordinary. Her words naturally attracted even more ridicule from the Celestial Eye clan. There was also a burst of laughter from the surrounding crowd. I heard that the 9th Sword Peak Lord is only a celestial being true immortal. A celestial being true immortal dares to enter the fiend battlefield alone? He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Lu Yun and the others had ugly expressions. Su Zimo's identity was special. To the Sword World, he wasn't just a true immortal. The peak master of the 9th Sword Peak was only his identity on the surface. The Sword World valued Su Zimo even more than Lin Xuanzhen. If the old fellows of the Sword World knew that something had happened to Su Zimo, Lu Yun and the others would definitely be blamed. Lu Yun was filled with regret. He glanced at Kitsune and sighed. If I'd known this would happen, I wouldn't have brought you and Brother Su here. Bai Tianxing grumbled, Brother Su is only a celestial being true immortal. Why did he go to the fiend battlefield alone? Kitsune said, Of course he's going to take revenge on the Celestial Eye clan. Brother Su is too impulsive. Bai Tianxing was also a little anxious. Kitsune looked at Lu Yun, Bai Tianxing, and the others with a strange expression. Master has entered the fiend battlefield. The Celestial Eye clan should be anxious. Why you guys so anxious? Lu Yun, Yulan, and the others were so angry that they wanted to laugh. This disciple is really big-hearted. Lu Yun sighed and shook his head. He was no longer in the mood to blame Kitsune. Yulan said, This isn't Brother Su's fault. He only decided to fight alone because Sun Zhen and the others were injured and almost died. Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu, and the others felt a little ashamed at the mention of this. Lin Xuanzhen also lowered his head in silence, looking worried. Even if he wants to go to the evil demon battlefield, he should discuss it with us first. Lu Yun continued, Moreover, he expended a great deal of energy to heal Sun Zhen, then entered the fiend battlefield without rest. That's a bit too careless. Yulan said, Brother Su has the Feng Tian medallion on him. If he's alert enough, he should be able to escape unscathed when he sees that the situation is bad. That being said, the other party was a supreme true spirit after all, and one that had comprehended the space-time shackles. Even Lin Xuanjun had almost died. If Xiang Meng wanted to keep Su Zimo here, not to mention escaping unscathed, even escaping alive would be an extravagant hope. At that moment, Wang Dong seemed to have thought of something. His face turned pale as he said in a trembling voice, "Peak Leader Su's heavenly bestowment badge doesn't seem to have any battle credits, what?" Lu Yun's, Yulan's, and the others' hearts sank to the bottom. Su Zimo's Feng Tian medallion originally had 20 merit points. Before leaving, he transferred 10 of them to Lin Xuanjun. After that, he left the Fiend battlefield and spent 10 merit points. In other words, Su Zimo's Feng Tian medallion was empty. To use the Feng Tian medallion to leave the Fiend battlefield, one had to have 10 merit points. It's over. He didn't even have the slightest chance to escape. Let's go. Lu Yun could not wait any longer and said in a low voice, "Quick, let's go to Feng Tian Plaza together and see if there's a chance to rescue him." Everyone from Sword World hurriedly moved and sped towards Feng Tian Pavilion. The Cold-Eye Monarch chuckled and said leisurely, "Brother Lu, don't be anxious. Wait for me, let's go take a look together. Who knows, we might be able to see an unprecedented battle." Everyone from the Heavenly Eye clan chased after. When the myriad races that were originally spectating here discovered that there was a show to watch at Feng Tian Pavilion, they would not miss this opportunity even more and followed behind noisily. Before long, everyone from Sword World already arrived at the entrance of Feng Tian Pavilion. Lu Yun was already prepared for the worst outcome in his heart. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into Feng Tian Pavilion first and turned right, heading straight for Feng Tian Plaza. Very soon, everyone from Sword World and Heavenly Eye World arrived at Feng Tian Plaza one after another. At this time, Feng Tian Plaza was somewhat quiet, the atmosphere strange. It was just that everyone from Sword World was worried and did not notice this abnormality. When the group of true spirits in the plaza saw Sword World and Heavenly Eye World rush in, they all revealed a trace of strange expressions. It seemed to be fear, shock, and sympathy. "Quickly look. People from Sword World are here. Heavenly Eye World is here too. This is interesting." Everyone whispered in low voices. Lu Yun still held a trace of hope. He searched around Feng Tian Plaza and did not find any traces of Su Zimo. Only then did he raise his voice and say, "May I ask fellow Taoists, which district of the Fiend battlefield is the peak master of my Sword World's 9th sword peak?" Right at this time, the third giant screen split open. A figure walked out from inside. Black hair, green robes, spotless, delicate features. It was precisely Su Zimo. When everyone from Sword World saw that Su Zimo was fine, they were wild with joy. A huge rock in their hearts finally landed. As soon as Su Zimo descended, everyone from Sword World swarmed over. "Brother Su, you were too rash. Why didn't you tell us that you were entering the Fiend battlefield? Yeah, you really scared us to death just now. If anything happened to you, how are we going to explain it when we return to Sword World? We can understand that you want to take revenge for Sun Zhen and the others and regain face for Sword World. However, there's no need to put yourself in danger and face Heavenly Eye World alone." That's right. It's fine that Sword World suffered a little loss this time. As long as you guys are fine, there's still plenty of time in the future. Lu Yun, Feng Su, and the other peak masters complained right away. There was a hint of blame in their tone. Although Su Zimo was fine, the few of them still had lingering fears. Hearing the words of the peak masters of the Sword World, all the living beings on the Sky Tribute Square were dumbfounded and confused. What nonsense are the peak masters from Sword World talking about? Put themselves in danger? Who put themselves in danger? That person had entered the evil demon battlefield and bolted through the air without any fear, leaving the group of evil demons and sinful spirits behind him. In just a few breaths, he had killed Xiang Meng and the others. How did that look like he was putting himself in danger? Moreover, how did Sword World suffer a loss? Didn't you just have a few true immortals who were slightly injured? The Heavenly Eye clan really suffered a big setback. Even their supreme true spirit was dead. It was like falling into a ditch and being completely wiped out. The four peak masters spoke one after another. Su Zimo didn't have a chance to explain. However, the faces of the Heavenly Eye clan members gradually darkened. They were very disappointed. The scene before them was completely different from what they had imagined. The Cold Eye King snorted and said, "I thought the peak master of Sword World's 9th sword peak was some incredible figure. It turns out that he just came out after taking a stroll in the Fiend battlefield." The Cold Eye King wasn't wrong. Su Zimo indeed didn't stay in the Fiend battlefield for long. After killing Xiang Meng and the rest, he cleaned up the battlefield and went to that cave previously to take a look before coming out. The Cold Eye King stared at Su Zimo, wanting to anger him again. He sneered and said, "If you have the guts, why don't you dare to find my Heavenly Eye clan and fight? A peak master is nothing more than this." In the eyes of the Cold Eye King and the rest, there was only one possibility for Su Zimo to come out of the Fiend battlefield alive. He did not encounter Xiang Meng at all. Otherwise, Xiang Meng would not let him leave alive at all. Chapter 2805. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. After the Cold Eye Monarch said this, countless gazes instantly landed on his face in the Sky Tribute Square. The Dragon World, Wutong World, Tomb World, Light World, Barbarian World, Golden Crow World, Giant World. The true spirits of the various worlds looked at the Cold Eye Monarch as if they were looking at an idiot. "You're talking about Xiang Meng and the others, right?" Su Zimo said indifferently, "We met. As for a great battle, it can't be considered." Su Zimo said it casually, but Lu Yun and the rest shuddered in fear. He actually met Xiang Meng and the others face to face. It was really fortunate to be able to escape unscathed under such circumstances. "Oh!" The Cold Eye Monarch didn't believe it at all and sneered. "You saw Xiang Meng and can still come back alive? You're really spouting nonsense. Do you think I'll believe such low-level lies?" Su Zimo didn't explain. He just took out 10 Sky Tribute tokens that were still stained with blood from his storage bag and threw them in front of the Cold Eye Monarch and the rest. The Heavenly Eye race was shocked. Their eyes widened as disbelief appeared on their faces. The Cold Eye Monarch reached out and grabbed one of the tokens. The name written on the front was Xiang Meng, and the battle merit points behind it were already empty. This was indeed Xiang Meng's Sky Tribute token. There was no mistake. How was this possible? The Cold Eye Monarch suddenly raised his head and stared at Su Zimo. He asked coldly, "Speak? Why is Xiang Meng's Sky Tribute token with you?" Unless Xiang Meng and the others encountered a great calamity, the Sky Tribute token that was hanging at all times definitely wouldn't fall into the hands of others. But the Cold Eye Monarch didn't believe it. Xiang Meng was a supreme true spirit. Who could kill him? Moreover, he had the Sky Tribute token. Even if he encountered experts like the 10 great demons in the Fiend battlefield, he could use the Sky Tribute token to escape. How could they be completely wiped out? Lu Yun and the others looked at Su Zimo with bewildered expressions. Their hearts were filled with bewilderment as they did not know what was going on. Not only do I have their tokens, but I also have these things. As Su Zimo spoke, he took out 10 round beads that were covered in blood from his storage bag and floated in his palm. Some of the 10 pearls were perfectly preserved, while others were covered in cracks. They emitted different Tao auras. Everyone present could clearly see that these 10 blood thread beads were the most important thing on the Heavenly Eye clan. The Heavenly Eye. Among them, one of the perfectly preserved Heaven's Eyes emitted a Tao aura that was related to time and space. Unsurprisingly, it was Xiang Meng's Heaven's Eye. Everyone from Sword World sucked in a breath of cold air. They looked at Su Zimo as if they were looking at a ghost. Only Kitsune's expression remained the same, as if she was not surprised at all. The moment the Cold Eye Monarch and the Heavenly Eye tribe saw the 10 Heavenly Eyes, their bodies trembled as if they were struck by lightning. If it was just the 10 tokens, Xiang Meng and the rest still had a chance of survival. But these 10 Heavenly Eyes were enough to prove that Xiang Meng and the rest were all dead. None of them survived. Su Zimo retracted his palm and put the 10 Heavenly Eyes back into his storage bag. He looked at the Cold Eye Monarch and the rest and said indifferently, "The 10 tokens are returned to their rightful owners. These 10 Heavenly Eyes still have some use, so I'll keep them." This sentence was simply murderous. Lu Yun and the rest were secretly delighted. They suddenly felt a sense of exaltation. The Cold Eye Monarch had mocked and taunted them for a long time, but it was not as damaging as Su Zimo's words. The Cold Eye Monarch was so angry that he almost spat out blood. His eyes were red, and the vertical Heavenly Eye between his brows couldn't be controlled. It wanted to open and kill. But soon he felt a strong sense of danger. This was a warning from the celestial world. If he made a move here, he would soon be killed by the celestial world's rules. The Cold Eye Monarch kept taking deep breaths, trying to calm the anger and killing intent in his heart. He just stared at Su Zimo, wishing he could tear him to pieces. The group of living beings who had followed from outside saw this scene and were stunned on the spot. Their faces were full of shock. Xiang Meng, the supreme true spirit on the Battle Merit Jade Tablet, a top expert who had comprehended the space-time imprisonment, died in the Fiend battlefield just like that? The Cold Eye Monarch slowly turned his head, his gaze landing on the Battle Merit Jade Tablet not far away. As expected, Xiang Meng's name had disappeared from the Battle Merit Jade Tablet. In the 36th position, the name Su Zhu was written. After killing Xiang Meng and the rest, not only did they take back the 1,000 battle merits on Lin Xuanzhen's celestial token, but Xiang Meng and the rest's battle merits were also all taken by Su Zimo. Just one battle and they were on the Battle Merit Jade Tablet. Normally speaking, it would take a long time to accumulate battle merits in the Fiend battlefield by continuously killing demons and sinful spirits. Some supreme true spirits even had to kill dozens of times in the Fiend battlefield to accumulate battle merits and make it onto the Battle Merit Jade Tablet. Killing a supreme true spirit on the Battle Merit Jade Tablet could take the battle merits of the other party and increase their ranking. This method of gaining battle merits was of course faster, but it was not practical. After all, those who could leave their names on the Battle Merit Jade Tablet were almost all supreme true spirits. Even if there was a winner, it would be difficult to determine life and death between supreme true spirits. Moreover, they had the celestial token. If the situation was not good, they could leave at any time. Who would have thought that the many living beings in the celestial square would be lucky enough to witness a new expert step on the corpse of a supreme true spirit and make it onto the Battle Merit Jade Tablet? The Cold Eye Monarch was still unwilling to believe it. How could it be? Xiang Meng was a supreme true spirit. How could the 10 of them die in the hands of a true immortal at the celestial being stage? This was impossible. Something unforeseen must have happened in between. Could it be that the 10 fiends had shown up to kill Xiang Meng and the others, and this Su Zhu had taken advantage of the situation? This conjecture was full of flaws, but it was still easier to accept than Xiang Meng and the others being killed by a true immortal at the celestial being stage. Even those from the sword world found it hard to believe, let alone the Cold Eye Monarch and the others. Although Lu Yun Yulan and the other peak masters knew that Su Zimo was Qinglian, they had no idea that Su Zimo's battle strength could reach such a level. Could he have released the creation Qinglian bloodline to kill Xiang Meng and the others? Was the creation Qinglian bloodline so powerful that it could allow him to cross 2 levels and kill a supreme true spirit? But judging from the other living beings' reactions, it seemed that he hadn't exposed the secret of the Qinglian bloodline. What had just happened? If the 4 peak masters were in such a state, their imaginations would run wild. Lin Xuanzhen, Wang Dong, Gong Sunyu, Xin Yu, and the other true immortals of the various sword peaks felt even more conflicted. Could Peak Master Su Zhu really be that powerful? The 8 of them couldn't help but recall the scenes that had happened in the Fiend battlefield. Peak Master Su Zhu's senses were extremely sensitive, even more sensitive than Lin Xuanzhen's. He could detect the Rakshasa ghost's tracks a long time in advance. Peak Master Su Zhu had even accumulated 10 battle merits without them noticing. He had even blocked Xin Yu's all-out attack once. This Peak Master Su Zhu's strength seemed to have revealed some clues in the Fiend battlefield. However, the 8 of them had preconceived notions and hadn't really paid attention to him. Chapter 2806. Thinking of this, Lin Xuanzhen and the others felt even more ashamed. Back then, they had thought of Su Zhu as a burden and sent her away. Who would have thought that they would suffer the consequences of their own actions? It's getting late. I'll go to the treasure pagoda to exchange for some treasures, Su Zimo said as he walked out. After killing Xiang Meng's group of 10, coupled with the 1,000 battle merits that Lin Xuanzhen obtained previously, Su Zimo's Heaven Bestowment token had already reached more than 5,300 battle merits. It was more than enough to exchange for the grand white mystic gold. Su Zimo walked towards the treasure pagoda. Only Kitsune followed behind him. The people of the sword world were still immersed in the scene just now. They couldn't recover from their shock. The Cold Eye Monarch and the Heavenly Eye race all glared at Su Zimo. They wanted nothing more than to skin Su Zimo alive. However, this was the Celestial Bestowment world. Even the Heavenly Eye race didn't dare to challenge the rules of the Celestial Bestowment world. Unless it was a life for a life. Moreover, only a Grotto Heaven Realm Monarch could take Su Zimo's life. In the Celestial Bestowment world, there was only a split second to attack a true Spirit Realm Monarch before they were killed by the rules of the Celestial Bestowment world. Only a Grotto Heaven Realm Monarch had the ability to do so. The Cold Eye Monarch knew that this idea was too daring. It was equivalent to breaking the tacit agreement between the great worlds. An immortal king powerhouse killing a prodigy of the other world without regard for their status was too vile. It could easily lead to even crazier revenge. However, the Cold Eye Monarch couldn't take this lying down. He wanted Su Zhu to die in the Celestial Bestowment world today. The Cold Eye Monarch looked at Su Zimo's departing figure and suddenly transmitted his voice to an elder behind him. Shuangmu, you don't have much lifespan left, right? Although this elder was also a Grotto Heaven Realm Monarch, he was the Cold Eye Monarch's servant and had followed him for many years. The elder seemed to have realized something. His eyes dimmed as he replied, "My lord, I still have 100,000 years left." For a Grotto Heaven Realm Monarch with 1,000,000 years of lifespan, 100,000 years wasn't a long time, but it was just the beginning. The Cold Eye Monarch said that Su Zhu's actions today, not only did he kill Xiang Meng's group, but more importantly, he's humiliated the Heavenly Eye world. The old man guessed the intention of the Cold Eye Monarch, but he remained silent. After all, he was a Grotto Heaven Realm Monarch. If he attacked in the Celestial Tribute world, it meant that he would die without a doubt. Unless he had no other choice, the heavens. That's a life, life. If you a life. The monarch was the Su's. Of his. It's that. Of. The Cold Eye Monarch continued, if you kill him, you'll be doing a great service to the Heavenly Eye world. I can promise you that your clansmen will be treated well by me in the future. The monarch wasn't from the Heavenly Eye race. When he heard the Cold Eye monarch's promise, he finally relented. Yes, my lord. The monarch didn't have a choice. He had no way out. Even if he refused, the Cold Eye monarch would still kill him after he left the Heavenly Eye world. In the Heavenly Eye world, only the Heavenly Eye race was the absolute monarch race. The other races were all slaves. The Cold Eye monarch said, "Remember, don't take any chances. Don't hold back. Use your Yuan spirit secret technique and kill him." In the Heavenly Eye world, no matter what race the monarch was, their grotto heaven would be restricted. The safest way to kill a true spirit realm monarch was to use a Yuan spirit secret technique that was a whole realm higher than the grotto heaven realm monarch. "I understand." The monarch replied. He disappeared into the crowd and left the Heavenly Eye Plaza. He chased after Su Zimo. After leaving the Heavenly Eye Plaza, Su Zimo headed for the Treasure Pagoda. In the Evil Fiend battlefield, he killed Xiang Meng and the others. After cleaning up the battlefield, he returned to the old haunt and headed for the cave where the mother ape stayed. The mother ape was dead and left behind a cub. If no one took care of it, it wouldn't live for long. However, when he returned to the cave, he didn't see any traces of the cub or any bloodstains. Perhaps the mother ape had already taken care of the cub, or other sanguine apes had taken the cub away. As Su Zimo thought about that, he walked and gradually arrived near the Treasure Pagoda. All of a sudden, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and his spirit perception that had been calm for a long time warned him. A strong sense of crisis suddenly descended upon him. Su Zimo, who had walked on the edge of life and death countless times, didn't even look back or think. He just relied on an instinctive reaction and teleported with Kitsune. After reappearing, Su Zimo didn't stop. He used the 9 palace subtle steps, and as if he had crossed countless layers of space, he arrived at the entrance of the Treasure Pagoda and entered. After entering the Treasure Pagoda, the sense of danger disappeared instantly. It was only then that Su Zimo turned around. In the distance, he saw that the divine sense light between the eyebrows of an old man had yet to dissipate. He was looking in the direction that Su Zimo had left with his eyes wide open and a face full of shock, as if he couldn't believe it. In the air, there was a terrifying primordial spirit power. That was an immortal king-level primordial spirit attack. The essence spirit attack chased in the direction that Su Zimo left in. However, it was blocked by the restrictions of the Treasure Pagoda and vanished. If Su Zimo had been a step slower, he would have been killed by the old man's primordial spirit's secret technique. Su Zimo was at the Heavenly Being realm and at the Essence Spirit realm. He was already at the Paradise Void realm. However, even if he released his 8 fangs god power and the power of his Essence Spirit increased, he could not break through to the Grotto Heaven realm and defend against the killing power of the Essence Spirit's secret technique of the Grotto Heaven realm. In reality, the killing power of the Essence Spirit's secret technique arrived instantly and was almost unavoidable. The reason why Su Zimo could escape this calamity was because his spirit perception warned him in advance. In other words, Su Zimo had already teleported away before the old man could release his Essence Spirit's secret technique. The old man wanted to stop, but it was too late. Although the Essence Spirit's secret technique was still chasing after Su Zimo, it was still a step too late and was blocked by the restrictions of the Treasure Pagoda. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for an immortal king expert to not fail in killing a perfected immortal. As long as he released his massive spirit consciousness and locked onto Su Zimo or used other methods to stall Su Zimo, the latter would not be able to escape or avoid his Essence Spirit's secret technique. However, this was the celestial tribute world after all. The moment he released his spirit consciousness and locked onto Su Zimo, the celestial tribute world would not give him a second chance to attack. For example, if he failed to kill Su Zimo after releasing his Essence Spirit secret technique, he would be killed mercilessly by the celestial tribute world. Life and death were decided in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, a beam of light descended at an alarming speed and entered the old man's head in a flash. The old man's life force decreased and his essence spirit was destroyed as he died on the spot. The next moment, an invisible force lifted the old man's corpse into the air before disappearing. When the Cold-Eye Monarch heard this voice, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly with a smug smile. He looked at Lu Yun and the others and said faintly, "What a pity, you're one step too late." "What happened?" someone asked loudly. The true spirit glanced in the direction of the Celestial Eye clan and swallowed. Just now, a king of the Celestial Eye clan suddenly attacked the 9th Sword Peak Master of the Sword World, and failed. Hearing these 3 words, the Cold-Eye Monarch's smile froze on his face. For a moment, he even thought that he'd misheard. Still in disbelief, Lu Yun asked probingly, "Fellow Taoist, did you just say that the king of the Celestial Eye world failed?" "Yes." The true spirit nodded. "He's already been erased by the rules of the world of celestials. Even his corpse has disappeared." The Cold-Eye Monarch clutched his chest, his body swaying, his face ashen. The 4 peak masters of Sword World's worry turned into joy, their anxious hearts finally settling down. The Celestial Eye world's move is too vicious. Their grudge with Sword World is growing deeper and deeper. I'm afraid it's impossible to resolve. A Grotto Heaven Realm King must have been prepared to die when he attacked the Sky Tribute World. Even that failed to kill the Peak Master of Sword World. This person is truly lucky. The Celestial Eye clan actually did such a despicable thing. How despicable! The Celestial Eye world really suffered a great loss this time. Not only did they lose a true spirit, but they also lost a Grotto Heaven Realm King. In the end, they didn't even touch a hair on the other party's head. Listening to the discussions around him, the Cold-Eye Monarch felt his vision darken and his head grow heavy. The Celestial Eye world had suffered too great a loss this time. They'd lost all face. Lu Yun and the others recovered from their initial joy. Lu Yun no longer held back. "Cold-Eye Monarch, you're truly despicable and shameless. How dare you send a king of the Celestial Eye clan to kill a true immortal of Sword World?" The Cold-Eye Monarch took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. Yu Lan said coldly, "Cold-Eye Monarch, your Celestial Eye clan broke the rules first. Don't blame Sword World for being unjust." "Exactly." Feng Su looked around and said loudly, "The true spirits of the various realms witness this. They can bear witness to this." The Cold-Eye Monarch said slowly, "Although I saw him leave, I had no idea what he was going to do. What's more, that old thing isn't even from my Heavenly Eye clan. His actions have nothing to do with my Heavenly Eye clan." The Cold-Eye Monarch knew he was in the wrong and decided to deny it outright. If he'd succeeded in killing Su Zhu, it would have been fine. But now, the Celestial Eye world had suffered great losses. If word got out of hand and Sword World retaliated, the Cold-Eye Monarch wouldn't be able to explain himself when he returned. Yu Lan snorted. "Heh, you Celestial Eye clan are truly shameless." Lu Yun also snorted. "Cold-Eye, don't think it's that easy for you to wash your hands clean. Even if that king isn't one of us, he's still one of you." "That's right," the Cold-Eye Monarch said. The Cold-Eye Monarch said, "Your Sword World can take revenge on the other races in the Heavenly Eye world. My Heavenly Eye race will not care, but don't put this debt on the Heavenly Eye race." In truth, the Cold-Eye Monarch had thought of this before he'd sent the old man out. However, he hadn't expected that a Grotto Heaven Realm King would fail. Chapter 2808. The Cold-Eye King's shameless denial naturally drew murmurs from the sacred beasts around him. Though the sacred beasts were wary of the Celestial Eye clan's viciousness and vengeance, they didn't dare mock them without restraint. Still, they couldn't help but whisper and point. The Cold-Eye King's expression darkened. He didn't have the face to stay any longer and left with the Celestial Eye clan without a word. Fearing that the Cold-Eye King would do something crazy again, Lu Yun, Yu Lan, and the rest of the Sword World cultivators hurriedly left for the Treasure Pagoda. The Cold-Eye King didn't stop after leaving Sky Tribute Square. He led the Celestial Eye clan out of Sky Tribute Island. "Lord Cold-Eye." A Celestial Eye clan member clenched his fists in indignation. "Are we leaving just like that? I can't take this lying down." "That's right. When has our Heavenly Eye clan ever suffered such humiliation? If it were up to me, we'd send a message back right now and have the top sacred beast of our clan, Xia Yin, Rush over and kill the Lord of Ninth Sword Peak. The Cold Eye King remained silent, his expression icy. After leaving the Sky Tribute World, the Cold Eye King slowly said, "Those from Sword World are about to reach the end of their 10-day stay here. They'll leave soon. Even if we have Xia Yin come now, it'll be too late. It'll be a wasted trip." Another Celestial Eye clan member spat, "Lord Cold Eye, are we just going to let this go?" "Of course not." The Cold Eye Monarch's eyes were gloomy as he said in a low voice, "Remember, the blood of my Heavenly Eye clan will not be spilled in vain. One day, my Heavenly Eye clan will make those people from the Sword World pay the price. We will make Su Zhu pay with her blood." With that, the Cold Eye King casually tore through the void and led the Celestial Eye clan into a spatial tunnel, disappearing from the Sky Tribute World. On the first floor of the Treasure Pagoda. By the time everyone from Sword World found Su Zimo, he had just exchanged for the Grand White Mystic Gold with the battle merits in his Heaven Bestowment Badge. "Brother Su, the Celestial Eye clan's immortal king attacked you just now. Are you alright?" "I'm fine." Su Zimo smiled but didn't say anything else. He'd encountered countless life-threatening situations since he'd started cultivating. That was just one of them, so it was nothing to him. But the more he didn't say it, the more unfathomable he seemed in the eyes of the people of Sword World. Lu Yun Yulan and the other Peak Lords were fine. After all, they knew some of Su Zimo's background. As for Wang Dong, Gong Sun Yu, and the others, the way they looked at Su Zimo had changed. In a few breaths, the Supreme True Spirits group of people was cut down like chopping melons and vegetables. Even under the all-out attack of an immortal king, he was completely unharmed. In everyone's eyes, this kind of battle record was simply an unimaginable miracle. In the beginning, although they were very respectful to Su Zimo and were very courteous, in the depths of their hearts, they did not approve of this outsider. Now, the way they looked at Su Zimo was not only with respect, but also with worship. Lin Xuanzhen's expression remained the same, but a hint of curiosity flashed through his eyes. "Peak Master Su." Shen Yu's expression was a little awkward, but he still went forward and bowed deeply to Su Zimo. "Previously in the Fiend battlefield, I was blind and offended you. Please forgive me, Peak Master Su." "It's nothing." Su Zimo waved his hand and said indifferently, "I was also at fault. If I had insisted on staying by your side, you would have been fine." At the mention of this, Shin Yu and the others felt even more ashamed. Su Zimo turned his head and inadvertently met Lin Xuanzhen's gaze. He paused for a moment and asked, "How are you feeling? Better?" Lin Xuanzhen nodded slightly and went forward to bow. "Thank you for saving my life, Peak Master." After a pause, Lin Xuanzhen recalled the scene in the cave and felt ashamed. He whispered, "Peak Master Su, previously I, forget it?" Su Zimo smiled indifferently and interrupted him. He took out a Feng Tian token from his storage bag and handed it to Lin Xuanzhen. "This belongs to you." Lin Xuanzhen received it and took a look. Her name was written on one side of the token. Initially, she was hunted down by Xiang Meng and her Feng Tian token was taken away by her. Now that Su Zimo took it back, it was returned to its rightful owner. Lin Xuanzhen glanced at the back of the Feng Tian token and saw that there were 1,000 battle merits on it. After her Feng Tian token was taken away by Xiang Meng, the battle merits on it were also taken away by Xiang Meng. It was clear that Su Zimo was the one who transferred the 1,000 battle merits over later on. "Peak Master, these battle merits." As soon as Lin Xuanzhen opened his mouth, Su Zimo said, "The 1,000 battle merits on it were originally yours. As for how many battle merits each of you has, I don't know. You can distribute them yourselves." Lin Xuanzhen hurriedly said, "I can't take these battle merits." "That's right, Peak Master Su. Our battle merits were already taken away by Xiang Meng in the Fiend battlefield," Wang Dong said. "No need to refuse." Su Zimo said, "You risked your lives to come to the Fiend battlefield for the buried Sword Peak. Now that I have the profound white gold rock, I naturally have to return these 1,000 battle merits to you. Take it." Yu Lan nodded slightly and said with a smile, "Brother Su is a Peak Master after all. How could he take advantage of you?" Distribute these battle merits and see what you need. You can exchange them in the treasure pagoda. Hearing his master's words, Lin Xuanzhen could not refuse anymore. He only looked deeply at Su Zimo before redistributing the battle merits in his heaven bestowment token to Wang Dong and the rest. Su Zimo said, "I'll go to the second floor of the treasure pagoda to see if there are any other treasures." He originally had 5,300 battle merits in his heaven bestowment token. After exchanging 1,000 points for the profound white gold rock and giving another 1,000 points to Lin Xuanzhen and the rest, he still had 3,000 left. When they came to the treasure pagoda in the 9 heavens, they were pressed for time and could only take a look at the first floor. Now that there was less than half a day left, they could take a look at the higher floors. The people of Sword World also followed Su Zimo up the stairs and entered the second floor of the treasure pagoda. After entering the second floor, there were clearly fewer people in the hall. After all, it was difficult for most true spirits to obtain more than 1,000 battle merits. Even if they came to the second floor, it was useless. The treasures on the second floor of the treasure pagoda required at least 1,000 battle merits. The upper limit was 2,000 points. The number of treasures on the second floor of the treasure pagoda did not decrease at all. There was a dazzling array of treasures. Immortal pills, divine weapons, natural treasures, cultivation techniques, secret techniques, immortal gold ores, everything. Moreover, the treasures on the second floor were clearly more precious and rare than those on the first floor. Su Zimo even saw some immortal pills that had been lost in ancient eras and many precious herbs and plants on the second floor of the treasure pagoda. Some herbs and plants had only appeared in a certain era and were now extinct. He did not expect to see them again in the treasure pagoda. Chapter 2809. Heavenly Dragon Lotus. At the end of level 2 of the treasure pagoda, Su Zimo stopped in front of a treasure chest and looked at a lotus within with a tempted expression. Even his Qinglian bloodline was stirring. Immortal King Ling Long had mentioned this lotus to him when he was in the Warring States period of the Azure Firmament Immortal Realm. The Heavenly Dragon Lotus was a lotus that grew in the 9 Heavens era. According to many ancient records, the 9 Heavens era was possibly the most ancient era. The great empress of that era was the creator of the art repository, the 9 Heavens Empress. Immortal King Ling Long had seen records of the Heavenly Dragon Lotus in the 9 Heavens Empress land of inheritance. Countless eras and hundreds of millions of years had passed since the 9 Heavens era. All living things in that era had long perished in the destruction of countless eras. Very few traces of them were left behind. Who would have thought that he would see a relatively complete Heavenly Dragon Lotus on the second floor of the treasure pagoda? Although this 9 Heavens Dragon Lotus had already withered, it was definitely a great tonic for the Green Lotus true body. Legend had it that when a living Heavenly Dragon Lotus bloomed, a divine dragon would be born in the center of the lotus. Su Zimo's gaze fell on the battle merit points exchanged from the treasure chest. 2,000 points. The Heavenly Dragon Lotus was one of the rarest and most precious treasures on the second floor of the treasure pagoda. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and didn't exchange for it immediately. Instead, he continued on to the third floor of the treasure pagoda. The range of treasures on the third floor was still very large. Whether it was spirit pills, wondrous medicines, or natural treasures, everything was included. Furthermore, on level 3 of the treasure pagoda, Su Zimo saw even more spirit items that were extinct in the past epochs. There was a 9 nether orchid that only grew in the 9 underworlds era, and it was still alive. Of course, this kind of precious plant required a lot of battle merit points. As the group from Sword World walked, they exclaimed from time to time. It was the first time for many of them to come to the third floor of the treasure pagoda. There were many treasures that even Lu Yun, Yu Lan, and the other peak masters had never heard of. Su Zimo walked forward, looking at the rare treasures one by one. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the treasures here were all incomparably precious. Some of them even made him feel a burst of excitement. However, he had yet to find what he needed. After cultivating to the Truth Self realm, besides cultivation resources like elemental spirit stones, The most important thing for cultivators was to comprehend the heavens and earth and to comprehend Tao techniques. Many true spirits often had sufficient cultivation resources, and the true qi in their bodies had already accumulated to the peak. However, if they were unable to comprehend the mysteries of their realms, they could only be stuck at the bottleneck, unable to advance any further. Especially the two realms after the true first realm, the void realm and the insightful emptiness realm, had extremely high requirements for a cultivator's comprehension of the Tao. So far, Su Zimo had already mastered two supreme divine abilities, the immortal slaying sword and the eight fangs divine power. As a matter of fact, he still had a few mystical abilities that he had cultivated to the quasi-supreme mystical ability level. There were some supreme divine abilities, such as the fleeting youth, the 6 paths of reincarnation, and the 4 heads and 8 arms. Given his talent and the opportunities he had encountered, he would have a high chance of comprehending them over time. However, there were some supreme divine abilities and even some Tao techniques that he could not comprehend. Including the Taboo Secret Manual, the Perfection of Nirvana Sutra, there were 3 secret skills. Up till now, he had only comprehended the impermanence of actions. There were 2 more after that, the Anatta Dharma and Nirvana Silence. He could not comprehend them at all. However, if he could comprehend Buddhism to its limits and fuse the secret skills of the dragons and elephants, he would be able to raise the level of the Buddhas, dragons, and elephants to the level of supreme divine abilities. Every single supreme divine ability that was comprehended would result in a qualitative leap and improvement for cultivators. Comprehending supreme divine abilities meant that the power of supreme divine abilities would descend and cleanse the body, bloodline, and essence spirit, allowing the cultivator to be reborn. At the same time, after comprehending a supreme divine ability and fusing the Tao technique into the Tao fruit, the cultivator's Tao fruit would become even stronger and their cultivation would increase exponentially. The stronger the Tao fruit, the stronger the grotto heaven formed in the future. Su Zimo searched as he watched. Finally, his eyes lit up and he took a few brisk steps forward, arriving before a treasure chest. Within the treasure chest was a stone the size of a baby's fist. It was golden, round, and crystal clear without any impurities as it emitted a faint golden glow. The Arhat relic. Furthermore, it was the relic of a supreme Arhat. In the Buddhist sects, true self-realm cultivators were known as Arhats and the Tao fruit of an Arhat was a relic. For Su Zimo, the most direct way to continue comprehending the Tao of the Buddhist monasteries was to look for a Luohan relic. Only by observing the relic and comprehending the Buddhist Tao techniques within it and verifying them with what he had learned would he be able to comprehend something. Among all the Arhat relic, the relic of a supreme Arhat was undoubtedly the most precious. Because, in the Saraira of the Supreme Arhat, there must be a kind of supreme divine ability. If it was the supreme divine ability of the Buddhas, dragons, and elephants, it would be of the greatest help to Su Zimo. Supreme Arhat Relic. He murmured softly when he walked over and saw the relic. Without hesitation, Su Zimo placed the token of providence in the groove of the treasure chest and spent a total of 3,000 battle merits to exchange for the supreme Arhat relic. What a pity! Su Zimo frowned slightly. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that there were 2 fine cracks on the relic. If a Tao fruit had a crack, it meant that the Tao arts contained within it might be incomplete, which would affect a cultivator's comprehension. Actually, there are some perfectly preserved supreme true spirit Tao fruits on the 5th floor of the treasure pagoda, Lu Yun said. However, the supreme true spirit Tao fruits that are still in good condition require 5,000 battle merits to exchange for them. That's a lot. Su Zimo clicked his tongue inwardly. Actually, the most important thing to exchange for a supreme true spirit Tao fruit is to comprehend the supreme combat arts contained within, Lu Yun said. But in reality, even if you obtain a supreme true spirit Tao fruit, you won't necessarily be able to comprehend the combat arts contained within. Su Zimo nodded. Talent, opportunity, fortune, time, accumulation, opportunity, karma, and many other factors were required to comprehend a supreme combat art. Not a single one could be missing. If one could comprehend a supreme ability just by relying on the Tao fruit of a supreme true spirit, then there would be supreme true spirits everywhere. The reason this supreme Arhat's Tao fruit is on the 3rd floor of the treasure pagoda is because it's flawed. Don't be fooled by the fact that 2 tiny cracks cost 2,000 battle merits. Not only are there supreme true spirit Tao fruits on the 5th floor, but also 9th tribulation spirit treasures. Every 9th tribulation spiritual treasure requires 5,000 battle credits. Chapter 28:10. After redeeming the supreme Arhat relic, Su Zimo did not have many battle merits left. He only had slightly more than 300 points. He returned to the 1st floor of the treasure pagoda and spent another 100 points to exchange for an ordinary Tao fruit from the elephant race. To comprehend the dragons and Buddhas, one had to learn as much as possible about their combat arts and secret arts as they could. Su Zimo's cultivation of the elephant race's Tao originated from the divine elephant breath devouring method and his combat arts, which was why he'd exchanged for a Tao fruit from the elephant race. Lin Xuanzhen, Wang Dong, and the others strolled around the treasure pagoda, not exchanging for anything. They all had the same idea, which was to save up their battle merits and exchange them for better treasures the next time they came to the celestial tribute realm. After depositing their tokens in the celestial tribute pavilion, they left the island and headed out of the celestial tribute world. Although Lin Xuanzhen, Wang Tong, and the others didn't exchange for any treasures on this trip to the celestial realm, they felt that their Taoism had become more profound and their combat strength had improved after a few days of fighting in the demonic battlefield. Lin Xuanzhen's near-death experience had improved his understanding of the immortal eradication sword, and he was only a hair's breadth away from enlightenment. Of course, Su Zimo was the one who'd benefited the most. Not only had he obtained the supreme Arhat relic, the elephant Tao fruit, and the 10 heavenly eyes from the Celestial Eye clan, but he'd also obtained them. Among them, Xiang Meng's heavenly eye contained a supreme combat art. If Su Zimo could fully comprehend the 10 heavenly eyes, the supreme Arhat relic, and the elephant Tao fruit, he could very well ascend to the Kongming realm. After leaving the celestial tribute world, he summoned the immortal boat and took everyone back to the sword world. Su Zimo looked thoughtfully at the celestial tribute world behind him. The celestial tribute world was unfathomably deep, as if shrouded in a perpetual mist. 10 days had passed. If he wanted to come to the celestial tribute realm again, he would have to wait 1,000 years. On the boat, Lu Yun seemed to have read Su Zimo's mind. "Brother Su," he said seriously, "you shouldn't come here until you've reached the Dongshu realm." "What do you mean?" Su Zimo asked. "We've been at odds with the Celestial Eye clan since the battle of the 7-star sword realm. You killed Xiang Meng today and even lost a king from the Celestial Eye world. With the Heavenly Eye clan's vengeful nature, they will definitely not let this matter rest. Previously, the Cold Eye King did not hesitate to sacrifice a king in exchange for a life in the celestial tribute world. Who knows what crazy things he will do in the future?" Yulan nodded and said, "Exactly. Moreover, the number 1 true spirit of the Celestial Eye clan, Xia Yin, is much stronger than Xiang Meng. As far as I know, Xia Yin might have comprehended 2 supreme divine abilities. After comprehending a supreme divine ability, one could be called a supreme true spirit and leave one's name on the jade tablet. If Xia Yin had comprehended 2 supreme divine abilities, his battle strength would be unimaginable." Su Zimo nodded. "No wonder he's first on the jade tablet. He does have some tricks up his sleeve." Su Zimo seemed to be praising Xia Yin, but he'd said it casually and in a nonchalant tone. Seeing that Su Zimo didn't seem to take the compliment to heart, Yulan reminded him, "Moreover, Xia Yin's supreme divine ability is the 6 paths of reincarnation. There weren't many supreme divine abilities, and only a dozen or so were known to exist. The power of each kind of supreme divine ability had a different manifestation. For example, space-time imprisonment had almost no offensive power and only limited the opponent's movements. The 6 paths of reincarnation, on the other hand, was definitely the most offensive of the many supreme divine abilities." "Oh." Su Zimo raised an eyebrow. It had been many years since anyone had comprehended the 6 paths of reincarnation to the extreme and reached the level of a supreme combat art. Xia Yin's mastery of the 6 paths of reincarnation was indeed surprising. Seeing that Su Zimo seemed to have taken it seriously, Yulan explained that Xia Yin was born with a pair of yin-yang eyes. It said that during one of his Dao enlightenment, he coincidentally activated his yin-yang eyes and unintentionally broke through the boundary between yin and yang, catching a glimpse of the outline of the 6 paths of reincarnation in the netherworld. Then he probably didn't see it as clearly as I did. Su Zimo murmured softly. What did you say? Yu Lan asked reflexively, not having heard Su Zimo's murmur. Nothing. Su Zimo didn't explain. Xia Yin had only caught a glimpse of the 6 paths of reincarnation, while he'd been standing in front of the 6 paths of reincarnation in the netherworld. No matter what, since we've obtained the ore, let's not go to the celestial bestowment realm for now. Su Zimo didn't comment. The danger they were worried about was only one of his concerns. However, there was something else that Su Zimo was worried about. For him, the safest place was the Sword World. With more than 10 great emperors overseeing the realm, they could nip any danger in the bud. However, there were still many treasures in the Celestial Bestowment Pavilion that piqued his interest. He'd have to wait for the right time to trade for them. After returning, those in the Sword World either gathered together to chat or cultivated alone in their rooms. Su Zimo belonged to the latter group. One day, he was studying the Tao of a celestial eye when footsteps sounded outside his door. The visitor hesitated for a long while before knocking lightly on the door. Peak Lord Su, this one is Lin Xuanzhen and wishes to see you. Come in. Su Zimo responded. Lin Xuanzhen pushed open the door and walked up to Su Zimo. He bowed respectfully and said, I've heard that you've long since grasped immortal eradication, Peak Lord. I'd like to seek your guidance. All right. Su Zimo smiled and agreed without hesitation. If this had happened in the past, Lin Xuanzhen would never have sought out Su Zimo, a true immortal at the celestial realm. But now, Su Zimo had saved her life and displayed unparalleled strength in the fiendish battlefield. Finally, the former number 1 true immortal of the Sword World was willing to set aside her pride and ask for guidance. Su Zimo stretched out his hand and summoned 3 strands of sword energy in his palm with a thought. They surged with murderous intent. The supreme combat art of immortal eradication originates from a wondrous book. The 3 sentences inside are the quintessence of immortal eradication. As the saying goes, the heavens emit murderous intent. Su Zimo had been able to grasp immortal eradication so quickly not only because of his talent in Sword Dao, but also because he possessed the Yin Talisman. More importantly, he possessed the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture. Using the Dao techniques in this wondrous book to verify the 3 sentences of the Zhu Xian sword was naturally a matter of course. Su Zimo dissected the Dao of the Yin Talisman and displayed it in the form of Sword Dao in front of Lin Xuanzhen. He integrated it into the 3 great sword arts and finally formed immortal eradication. Lin Xuanzhen watched the whole process, and the brilliance in her eyes grew brighter and brighter. Finally, at a certain moment, a flash of inspiration flashed through her mind. It was as if she had been enlightened and all the bottlenecks were solved. Chapter 28:11. Lin Xuanzhen's eyes were closed as killing intent gathered within her, becoming purer and purer. A crimson longsword materialized behind her, becoming more and more tangible. A terrifying supreme power descended upon her body and began to cleanse her flesh and blood. Success. Su Zimo nodded slightly at the woman in front of him. Lin Xuanzhen was indeed very talented in Sword Dao. He'd only given a few pointers, but Lin Xuanzhen had grasped the crux of the matter and grasped the true essence of Altus. Although Lin Xuanzhen wasn't his disciple, he hadn't held back in his teachings. From this day forth, the world of Sword Dao had gained yet another true spirit. The commotion in the room immediately alerted Lu Yun, Yu Lan, and the other Peak Lords. The 4 of them immediately arrived outside Su Zimo's room. It looks like Lin Xuanjun has already grasped Altus. We'll stand guard here for her. The way I see it, we don't need to do anything. Didn't you notice whose room Lin Xuanjun is in? Xuanjun has been looking for a Dao partner all these years. I think Brother Su is a good choice. There's a difference in seniority, as long as they're around the same age. The four peak lords gradually disappeared into the distance, their conversation fading away as well. Su Zimo's expression was calm as he closed his eyes and rested. Across from him, Lin Xuanjun's cheeks were unusually rosy, perhaps because Altus's combat arts had cleansed her bloodline and body too fiercely. The whole process lasted for half a day before Lin Xuanjun gradually recovered as before. Although her cultivation was still at the Dongshu realm and hadn't improved much, her essence, qi, and spirit seemed to have more than doubled. After the baptism of a supreme combat art, her battle strength had also risen to a new level. Thank you for your guidance, Peak Lord. Lin Xuanjun bowed again to Su Zimo. No need for such courtesy. Su Zimo inclined his head with a smile. Lin Xuanjun stood in place, as if he had thought of something. He wanted to say something but hesitated. Anything else? Su Zimo asked. Lin Xuanjun pondered for a while and asked casually, Peak Master, do you know anything about the way of the absolute sword that I cultivate? I know a little about it. Su Zimo nodded and said, It is to use the heart of the sword to sever the 7 emotions and 6 desires, to cut off the roiling world of mortals, and to achieve a state of transcendence and not attachment to external things. Lin Xuanjun nodded and added, When we cultivate the path of the absolute sword, we don't really cut off our emotions and desires. It's only when we're in the state of the absolute sword that we don't care about external things. Su Zimo's expression was calm as he lowered his eyes. A trace of disappointment flashed across Lin Xuanjun's eyes, but he quickly recovered and said in a low voice, Peak Master Su, I'll take my leave. Su Zimo only looked up at Lin Xuanjun's back when he left. He was calm and continued to comprehend the Dao technique. A few days later, the people of the sword world finally returned. Su Zimo brought the thousands of sword cultivators who survived the 7-star sword world back to Burial Sword Peak. At the same time, he placed the grand white-black gold rock into Burial Sword Peak. Burial Sword Peak looked no different from before. It only had a few thousand more ordinary disciples and Meng Hao, a perfected immortal. It was far from the strength of the other 8 sword peaks. However, ever since the people of the sword world returned from the celestial tribute world, all the sword cultivators vaguely felt that Burial Sword Peak seemed to be different from before. However, they still did not know the reason. As time passed, the things that happened in the celestial tribute world continued to ferment and gradually spread in the sword world. Many sword cultivators realized how terrifying the Burial Sword Peak Master was. This matter not only spread in the sword world, but also in many realms. Before this, only a small number of realms knew that the sword world had given birth to a 9th Sword Peak Master. After the battle in the celestial tribute world, many realms knew that the 9th Sword Peak Master was a ruthless person. After returning from the celestial tribute world, Lin Xuanjun, Wang Dong, Gong Sunyu, and a few other top sword cultivators of the major sword peaks often went to Burial Sword Peak to listen to Su Zimo's lectures. Even Yun Ting came a few times. In fact, since the establishment of Burial Sword Peak, Su Zimo would give lectures every once in a while. However, it was extremely quiet under Burial Sword Peak. Almost no one came to listen to his lectures. Half of the perfected immortals of the major sword peaks had cultivation levels higher than Su Zimo. Who would care about his lectures? However, as the news of the battle in the celestial tribute world spread, more and more sword cultivators came to listen to the lectures under the Burial Sword Peak's lecture platform. Most importantly, every sword cultivator felt that they had benefited greatly after listening to the lectures. Although Su Zimo's cultivation realm was only at the heavenly being stage, he had once received the teachings of the great emperor of all heaven and possessed many forbidden mystic manuals. As such, his understanding of the Tao of the sword was far beyond his peers. Of course, for Su Zimo, The most important thing for the next period of time was to comprehend Dao techniques and divine abilities. In the blink of an eye, 300 years had passed. Su Zimo comprehended another supreme divine ability, 4 heads and 8 arms. This supreme divine ability originated from his 99 heavenly tribulations. He experienced the power of the 4 heads and 8 arms divine ability. No one could comprehend this supreme divine ability more easily than him. After being baptized by the power of the 4 heads and 8 arms divine ability, Qinglian's bloodline, body, and primordial spirit improved again. Her cultivation level also improved. In the 800th year, Su Zimo finally comprehended the 6 paths of reincarnation. The supreme divine ability of the 6 paths of reincarnation passed through her body. Even the 12th stage creation Qinglian's body almost couldn't withstand it. It collapsed several times before recovering again. After 6 consecutive collapses and recovery, Qinglian's body was reborn. Her body was shrouded in an even more mysterious aura, as if she had jumped out of the cycle of reincarnation. In the 1000th year, Su Zimo comprehended the supreme Arhat relic and finally comprehended the second secret technique of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. The true essence of the so-called non-self state was to put self in the state of emptiness. This was the state of non-self, where all laws couldn't touch the body. And the comprehension of emptiness in this secret technique was just right for the Kongming stage of the True One stage. In Xiangmeng's heavenly eye, the space-time imprisonment also contained the understanding of emptiness. As a result, Su Zimo's cultivation in the celestial being stage skyrocketed. He even touched the barrier of the Kongming stage and could break through at any time. After a short year, due to the improvement in his attainments in Buddhism, coupled with the Tao techniques of the dragon and elephant race, Su Zimo finally pushed the might of the Buddha dragon elephant to its limits and reached the level of a supreme divine power. The supreme divine ability of Buddhism descended and baptized Qinglian's body again. With the help of this divine ability, Su Zimo directly broke through the bottleneck and stepped into the Kongming stage. Normally speaking, when one cultivated to the True One stage, no matter how strong one's talent was or how abundant the resources were, one's cultivation speed would slow down. For example, Yun Ting had already stepped into the True One stage, but after 1,000 years, he still hadn't stepped into the celestial being stage. It was the same for Kitsune. And Su Zimo was able to step into the Kongming stage in just 1,000 years because he had comprehended 3 supreme divine abilities and a forbidden secret technique. The appearance of the 3 supreme mystical powers alone was enough to change the green lotus true body and raise the cultivation level of the cultivator. Moreover, with the comprehension of the Kongming stage and the huge amount of cultivation resources, Su Zimo stepped into the Kongming stage naturally. Chapter 28:12. 1,000 years had passed, and Su Zimo could enter the celestial tribute domain again. However, the time was not right yet. If he rashly went to the celestial tribute domain, he might encounter great danger. And this danger did not only come from the heavenly eye race. For 1,000 years, Su Zimo would try to establish contact with Wu Dao's original body every once in a while during his cultivation. However, there was no response. It had been 2,000 years since the last time the 2 true bodies separated in the underworld. There was only one explanation for this situation. Wu Dao's original body had not returned to the upper realm. Because the 2 true bodies were in 2 independent worlds, separated by a powerful realm barrier, they could not contact each other. Wu Dao's original body had followed the Void Yaksha into the Ghost Dao for 2,000 years, but he had not returned to the upper realm. No one knew what had happened. According to the Void Yaksha, the Ghost Dao was an independent world on par with the upper realm. The Ghost Dao was different from the Hell Dao. The Ghost Dao was flawless and its laws were complete. Not only were there Emperor Realm experts, but there was also a terrifying existence like the Brahma Ghost Mother, who was very likely to be a great emperor. Although Wu Dao's original body had stepped into the martial domain realm, it was only a small success. In terms of battle strength, it could suppress all Grotto Heaven realm kings, but it would be difficult for him to win against a quasi-emperor. With a prison suppression cauldron, soul lamp, and netherworld treasure mirror, he might be able to fight against a quasi-emperor. In the Ghost Dao, there were too many experts who could threaten Wu Dao's original body. Su Zimo sighed softly, refocused his mind, and continued to cultivate with Wu Dao. No matter what Wu Dao's original body experienced in the Ghost Dao, he could not do anything. He could only rely on Wu Dao's original body to deal with it. Wu Dao's original body jumped into the Ghost Dao. His body was completely out of control. He only felt the world spinning, as if he had fallen into a huge vortex, and instantly lost his 5 senses. He could not even feel the passage of time. Only a little of his spiritual sense remained, allowing him to judge that he had not encountered any danger. The void yaksha was right beside him. Its entire body was curled up and its eyes were closed. Its entire body was curled up like an infant. The two of them couldn't communicate, nor could they use their divine sense to communicate. They could only let nature take its course and go with the flow. It was a wonderful feeling. Wu Dao's main body relied on what little spiritual sense he had left to perceive the outside world as much as possible. He felt as if he was in the river of time. It wasn't darkness in front of him, but a colorful scene. In this reincarnation cycle, his body, origin spirit, and every drop of blood seemed to be separated from his body and disappeared into the void. After an unknown period of time, Wu Dao's main body seemed to have passed through a body of water, and the feeling of being peeled away from him suddenly disappeared. Wu Dao's main body did his best to control his body, and his 5 senses were gradually recovering. Wu Dao's main body took a deep breath and suddenly opened his eyes. The surroundings were dark, and the world was filled with a kind of cold heaven-earth yuan qi. It seemed a little gloomy, and there was no light at all. Of course, this kind of darkness didn't affect the eyesight of Wu Dao's main body. The void yaksha next to him also gradually recovered. It stretched its body, moved its muscles, and looked at the surrounding environment. There was a faint trace of excitement in the depths of its eyes. This is the ghost realm. The void yaksha was all too familiar with the surrounding environment. Wu Dao's main body remained calm on the surface, but a trace of vigilance suddenly appeared in his heart. This void yaksha had committed a great crime in the ghost realm and was exiled to the river Styx by the Brahma ghost mother. Now that he had returned to his old haunt, he should have some scruples. However, this void yaksha not only did not have any timidity, but instead revealed a trace of excitement. The Yaksha clan was not a kind race. Back in the Bitter Spring prison, Wu Dao's main body had saved this void yaksha. Not only did he not have the slightest bit of gratitude, he even wanted to kill Wu Dao's main body. In the end, it was Wu Dao's main body who relied on his powerful strength to suppress him, and this void yaksha bowed down and submitted. Moreover, he promised to help Wu Dao's main body return to the medium-class world. Later, after entering the underworld, this void yaksha had always been obedient beside Wu Dao's main body. Wu Dao's main body gradually let down his guard. Now, the emotions that this void yaksha inadvertently revealed once again made Wu Dao's main body vigilant. The Yaksha clan was ferocious and cunning. It was not surprising that they would break their promise. Wu Dao's main body did not rashly make a move. This was the ghost realm, which was too unfamiliar to him. Since he had already come here, there was no way out. He could only try his best to inquire about the situation of the ghost realm from this void yaksha, find a way to return to the medium-class world, and then act according to the circumstances. Stuck, change the map, let me sort it out. End of this chapter. Chapter 28:13. The void yaksha looked around and tore open a spatial tunnel. He turned around and said, "Follow me." Wu Dao's main body was calm as if he didn't suspect anything. He took a step forward and followed behind the void yaksha. At this distance, Wu Dao's main body could guarantee that if anything happened, he would be able to suppress this void yaksha immediately. "Where are we going?" Wu Dao's main body asked casually. "The 9 Nether Abyss." The void yaksha replied. A thought flashed through Wu Dao's main body's mind. The 9 Nether Abyss? I wonder if the 9 Nether Abyss has anything to do with the former 9 Nether Emperor? Before Wu Dao's main body could ask, the void yaksha explained, the ghost world can be divided into two major ghost realms, separated by the 9 nether abyss. On one side is our yaksha ghost realm, which is divided into 8 realms ruled by 8 yakshas. These 8 yakshas are all the arch-experts and were personally bestowed titles by Lady Ghost Mother. What title do you have? Wu Dao's main body asked. The void yaksha smacked his lips and said, although I'm a void yaksha, I haven't cultivated to the arch realm. How can I be qualified to be given a title by Lady Ghost Mother? Lady Ghost Mother only gave me a title, Ugly Slave. Ugly Slave. This title is really casual. It seems that this void yaksha is really insignificant to the Brahma Ghost Mother, Wu Dao's main body thought. The void yaksha continued, on the other side of the 9 nether abyss is the Rakshasa ghost realm. There are 10 realms ruled by 10 Rakshasas. Wu Dao's main body's expression changed. Rakshasa ghost realm. Wu Dao's main body suddenly asked, is the Rakshasa race in the Rakshasa ghost realm? That's right. The void yaksha nodded. As expected, when Qinglian's main body was in the divine firmament immortal realm, she had entered Ashura battlefield to help Xie Qingqing obtain the Duke Seal. It was there that Qinglian came into contact with the Yaksha tribe for the first time. The first time he saw the Yaksha tribe, he thought of the Rakshasa tribe. He felt that the two tribes were somehow related. Unexpectedly, the Rakshasa tribe and the Yaksha tribe were both from the hungry ghost realm. No wonder there were Yaksha and Rakshasa. In fact, the names of these two races had already revealed their origins. The Rakshasa race was one of the primordial 9 races in Tianhuang mainland. However, in the 3,000 worlds, there was no world where the Rakshasa lived. Unexpectedly, they were hidden in the hungry ghost realm, one of the 6 paths. Wu Dao's true body asked again, the 10 Rakshasa maidens you mentioned earlier should also be imperial emperors, right? Not bad. The void yaksha said, of course there are more than 18 imperial emperors in the 2 ghost regions. There are even more. As it spoke, the void yaksha turned to look at Wu Dao's true body. However, Wu Dao's true body was wearing a silver mask and no emotions could be seen. Only a pair of eyes that were as deep as the sea were emotionless. In fact, the situation in the ghost realm was indeed troublesome for Wu Dao's true body. Up until now, he was at the lesser mastery of the martial domain realm and invincible in the grotto heaven realm. Only by using treasures such as the health-suppressing cauldron could he have a chance of fighting against a quasi-emperor. Back then, there were 3 quasi-emperors in hell. Although he killed one of them, he was injured by the remaining 2 quasi-emperors. His blood stimulated the netherworld treasure mirror and he killed another quasi-emperor before he completely subdued hell. The battle in the netherworld was a special situation. That was because the soul lamp was extremely harmful to the soul. That was why he could rely on the soul lamp to fight against the emperor realm experts in the netherworld. The situation in the ghost realm was completely different from the netherworld and hell.